Chapter 2243. Bam! A punch blasted out, shattering Marquis Night Devil's protective demonic technique. Under everyone's incredulous gaze, Marquis Night Devil's body was sent flying dozens of miles away. His clothes were torn to shreds, and the spiritual light on them was gone. One must know that this night demon Marquis was a powerful being who had made a name for himself a long time ago. His robes were extremely powerful defensive, immortal weapons. However, they were destroyed by this single punch, losing all of their powers. At the same time, Marquis Night Devil's appearance was incomparably miserable. He spat out mouthfuls of blood, severely injured by a single punch. Marquis Night Devil was beaten to such a miserable state by a single punch. What? Impossible. Marquis Night Devil was beaten to such a miserable state. Many martial artists and demon immortals present couldn't believe their eyes for a moment. Even the other immortal Marquis experts present were staring at Marquis Night Devil with their eyes wide open. Marquis Night Devil was a famous figure. He wasn't a nobody. Even in the 9 regions, he was well known for his prowess. Marquis Night Devil dared to be the first to attack. He was incomparably confident in his own strength. But now, no one would have thought that this night demon Marquis would be beaten so miserably by a single move from Chu Fengmian. This was simply something that ordinary immortal kings might not be able to do. It was especially so when they could see that Chu Fengmian was only half a step into the celestial realm. He had not even stepped into the celestial realm. Such a scene was completely beyond their imagination. Damn it! Marquis Night Devil stood up abruptly, looking at Chu Fengmian with extreme anger. He was Marquis Night Devil, an invincible demonic cultivator. When had he been beaten to such a miserable state? Especially when he was beaten to such a state by a junior like Chu Fengmian. This was simply humiliating to the extreme. Little bastard, I must kill you today. I will refine your blood essence and soul into my demon god flag. Demon god descends. Shatter all lives. Following Marquis Yimo's furious roar, a flag appeared in his hand. The flag was blood red in color, and at a glance, it seemed to contain an enormous amount of blood aura. The blood-red color on the surface was the result of the blood of countless living beings. This blood-red color revealed a strange pattern. This pattern was incomparably ancient and contained boundless demonic intent. The flag in Marquis Night Devil's hand was definitely an invincible demonic weapon. It's the demon god flag. Night Devil is going all out. This invincible demonic weapon has appeared. Marquis Night Devil killed billions of living beings to condense this demon god flag. The power of this demon god flag is much more powerful than before. Just how many lives has this Marquis Yimo killed? Night Devil's flag. Seeing the appearance of the demon god flag, many of the warriors and demon gods present recognized the origin of the demon god flag. Their expressions changed as they retreated, afraid that they would be implicated. Demon god flag. It's actually the head of the 10 heavenly demons, the demonic weapon of the demon god. When Chu Fengmian saw this demon god flag, he recognized the origin of this demon god flag through the ancient memories in the Sword Emperor crown. The demon god flag was the head of the 10 heavenly demons, the demonic weapon of the demon god. Although the 10 heavenly devils were all devil ancestors, the devil god heavenly devil was their leader. His most powerful devil item was the devil god banner. It was said that when the devil god banner appeared, a horde of devils would descend, destroying everything. In that ancient era, as long as the demon god flag was used, it represented the destruction of a continent and a world. The demon god flag was the nightmare of all living beings in the primordial era. Of course, the demon god flag in Marquis Night Devil's hand was not the demon god flag of the demon god, but a replica. However, even if it was a replica, the demon god flag was a genuine demonic weapon that contained terrifying power. Vaguely, Chu Fengmian could feel that the grade of the demon god flag was higher than the 2 immortal swords of the black and white sword sect that he had obtained. Marquis Night Devil had massacred billions of living beings and bound them into the demon god flag, turning them into the power of the demon god flag. As soon as the demon god flag appeared, Chu Fengmian felt a shocking resentment. If the resentment contained within the demon god flag was released, it could make all the living beings on the continent go crazy. The demon god flag was Marquis Knight Devil's most powerful demonic weapon. Now, that Marquis Knight Devil had used the demon god flag, it was obvious that he was going to fight Chu Fengmian to the death. Demons descend. Marquis Knight Devil held the demon god flag and roared loudly. Suddenly, demonic intent filled the sky as the demons descended. From the sky, demonic shadows appeared and roared towards Chu Fengmian. Die for me. At the same time, Marquis Knight Devil also grabbed the demon god flag and smashed it towards Chu Fengmian. Thousands of killing intent burst out, and the space that the demon god flag passed through was shattered, unable to withstand such terrifying power. This is too scary. The demon god flag, such a demonic weapon, was actually refined by Marquis Knight Devil. By relying on this demon god flag, even if it's an immortal king expert, when facing this demon god flag, as long as they're careless, they might fall into an irrecoverable situation. Feeling the boundless demonic intent, many of the martial artists and demon gods present felt a chill in their hearts. They looked at Marquis Knight Devil with fear in their eyes. Obviously, they were extremely wary of Marquis Knight Devil and the demon god flag. Bang! But just as everyone was talking, the sky changed. Suddenly, there was a change in the sky. Chu Fengmian's body suddenly grew in size. In an instant, he turned into a human. His body turned into a ray of light and arrived in front of Marquis Knight Devil in an instant. Then, he threw out a punch. The power of this punch contained the power of the 9 moves of the primogenitor. Now, Chu Fengmian's comprehension of the 9 moves of the primogenitor was no longer limited. No matter if it was a fist technique, palm technique, or sword technique, he could perfectly display the essence of it. Just like primogenitor Tianlong, no matter how he attacked, he could erupt with his strongest strength. Although Chu Fengmian had not reached primogenitor Tianlong's level, he was close to it. Boom! Rolling dragon force emerged from Chu Fengmian's body, condensing into the shadows of dragons. Chu Fengmian was in the middle of thousands of dragons, like a high and mighty dragon emperor, worshipped by thousands of dragons. End of chapter. Chapter 2244. A monster immortal murmured. He had seen many monster immortals who possessed the bloodline of ancestor Tianlong. However, almost all of them could barely activate the power of ancestor Tianlong's bloodline. He had never seen someone like Chu Fengmian who directly transformed into ancestor Tianlong. After Chu Fengmian obtained the supreme sword sex inheritance, he knew that there was no need to hide his strength anymore. The news of Chu Fengmian obtaining the supreme sword sex inheritance had already spread. Therefore, even if Chu Fengmian kept a low profile, countless monster immortals would come to snatch the supreme sword sex inheritance. Therefore, he might as well show his strength. Moreover, with Chu Fengmian's current strength, there was no need for him to keep a low profile, even in the 9 regions. Today, these people besieging Chu Fengmian was a good opportunity for him to establish his prestige. Marquis Knight Demon was the first person Chu Fengmian wanted to kill. Tianlong's 8 notes. Chu Fengmian transformed into ancestor Tianlong and roared. As he roared, he activated one of the secret techniques of the Dragon Clan, Tianlong's 8 notes. The dragon roar reverberated and spread. The demons formed by the demonic will exploded in front of the 8 Tianlong's 8 notes. At the same time, Chu Fengmian transformed into Tianlong's body and rushed towards Marquis Knight Demon. 2 huge dragon claws slammed down. Suddenly, a force collided. The instant the 2 incomparably enormous dragon claws collided with the demon god flag, the demon god flag shook violently and was immediately sent flying. Boom! Then, the 2 huge dragon claws ruthlessly bombarded Marquis Knight Demon's body. The defensive secret technique condensed by Marquis Knight Demon's body was as fragile as paper. It was forcibly torn apart by the 2 huge dragon claws. Marquis Knight Demon's body was completely at Chu Fengmian's mercy. Facing the 2 dragon claws, Marquis Knight Demon didn't even have the strength to fight back. Chu Fengmian held Marquis Knight Demon in his palm and activated the sky-devouring secret technique. Chu Fengmian returned to his original form. Looking at Marquis Yemo before him, he laughed coldly as his devouring power burst forth. Knight Demon Marquis' body was shattered by the sky-devouring secret art. His essence blood turned into pure immortal force and poured into Chu Fengmian's body. Just like that, an immortal Marquis was devoured alive by Chu Fengmian. At the sight of this, all the martial artists and Yao gods present felt suffocated. This was an immortal Marquis expert. Even in the current 9 domains, where experts were as common as clouds, an immortal Marquis was an absolute expert. No matter which faction he was placed in, he would be highly regarded and would be roped in. But in front of Chu Fengmian, Marquis Yemo seemed so weak. Even after taking out his strongest demonic weapon, the demon god flag, he was still no match for Chu Fengmian. Instead, he was easily killed by Chu Fengmian. Not to mention the immortal generals, even the immortal Marquis experts present couldn't help but feel their hearts tremble. They looked at Chu Fengmian with no more contempt. Instead, they looked at him with incomparable seriousness. They originally thought that Chu Fengmian was just a kid who got lucky and obtained the inheritance of the Upper Sword sect. After all, even when Chu Fengmian fought for the Upper Sword execution token portrait, the strength he displayed was only at the immortal general realm. An immortal general wasn't worthy of being placed in the eyes of an immortal Marquis. Therefore, when Knight Demon Marquis attacked, he didn't put Chu Fengmian in his eyes at all. But it was this arrogance that brought him disaster. Immortal Marquis. He might even have the strength of a peak immortal Marquis. Everyone was sizing up Chu Fengmian, trying to estimate his strength. Chu Fengmian could easily defeat Knight Demon Marquis, even if it was because Knight Demon Marquis had underestimated him and was injured first. But to be able to withstand the attack of the Demon God Flag, Chu Fengmian's strength was definitely at the immortal Marquis level. He might even be at the peak of the immortal Marquis level. After all, Chu Fengmian came from the Sword Dao sect and was a sword cultivator. For a sword cultivator, swordsmanship and Sword Dao were their strongest aspects. Chu Fengmian killed Knight Demon Marquis without even unsheathing his sword. This also proved that Chu Fengmian's true strength was even more terrifying than what he had just shown. Damn the Tianjin sect. As expected, there's no such thing. The Tianjin sect wants to borrow our hands to get rid of this kid. Many martial artists and Yao gods present cursed in their hearts. They had all received the news from the Tianjin sect and came to fight for the inheritance of the Upper Sword sect. After all, how strong could a kid who was half a step into the celestial realm be, even if he was strong? But the moment they saw Chu Fengmian, they understood that everything about Chu Fengmian couldn't be predicted with common sense. The strength that Chu Fengmian had just shown was beyond their imagination. It was completely different from what they had always known about the strength of the realm. While everyone was still immersed in the shock, Chu Fengmian looked into the distance and suddenly made a move. A burst of spiritual energy burst out and turned into a huge palm, grabbing at the demon god flag that had been sent flying. The demon god flag was enscathed under the power of Chu Fengmian's claw. It was definitely a high-quality demon weapon. It could be said to be a top-grade demon weapon. Now, Chu Fengmian's brute force had already reached an incredible level with the support of his physical body. Even if it were an immortal weapon or a demon weapon of slightly inferior quality, Chu Fengmian would be able to destroy it with a single move. However, the demon god flag was enscathed under the power of Chu Fengmian's attack. It was definitely a good demon weapon. The huge palm that Chu Fengmian had condensed crossed hundreds of miles and grabbed at the demon god flag. But at this time, the demon god flag seemed to have a consciousness and sense the danger. At the moment when Chu Fengmian made his move, it suddenly burst out with power and tore the space apart, trying to escape through the void. Trying to escape from my hands with a puny demon weapon? Chu Fengmian sneered. The huge palm immediately escaped in a void. In the void, the two forces collided. In the next moment, the huge palm returned to Chu Fengmian. At the same time, it brought back the demon god flag. This demon god flag was sacrificed with the blood of billions of living beings. It can be said to be a peerless demon weapon. Even Yi Mo Marquis couldn't fully exert the power of this demon god flag. Chu Fengmian held the demon god flag in his hand and carefully looked at it. He saw many mysteries in it at a glance. End of chapter. Chapter 2245. Chu Fengmian's current strength was almost at the level of an immortal king. His knowledge far surpassed Knight Devil Marquis, and he could see the many mysteries of the demon god flag with a single glance. In order to refine the demon god flag, Knight Devil Marquis had slaughtered billions of living beings and used their essence blood to refine the flag. The power of the flag was so strong that even Knight Devil Marquis couldn't fully unleash it. Chu Fengmian could see that when Knight Devil Marquis activated the demon god flag, he could only unleash about 50% of its original power. Although the demon god flag was refined by Knight Devil Marquis, even Knight Devil Marquis himself couldn't fully unleash its power. Even now, with Chu Fengmian's experience and knowledge, he could feel that some of the mysteries of the demon god flag were difficult for him to comprehend in a short period of time. The demon god flag actually contains some of the mysteries of the demon god and sky demon. Chu Fengmian's eyes flashed with astonishment. He observed the demon god flag for a while and could see that the demon god flag wasn't refined by Knight Devil Marquis alone. The mysteries of the flag were definitely at the level of an immortal emperor, or even stronger than an immortal emperor. The 10 sky demons were the demon ancestor, and each of them was an invincible existence in the immortal emperor realm. The fiend celestial heavenly demon was the most powerful of the 10 heavenly demons. His various means and demonic skills were probably qualified to be ranked among the 10 supreme immortal arts of the antiquity times. Chu Fengmian originally thought that the demon god flag was just a replica of the real demon god flag refined by Knight Devil Marquis. But now, it seemed that it wasn't that simple. Knight Devil Marquis must have once obtained an opportunity related to the demon god and sky demon to be able to refine the demon god flag. The demon god flag contained a portion of the demon god and sky demon's demonic arts, as well as his various comprehensions as the demon ancestor. If Chu Fengmian could comprehend the mysteries of the demon god flag and integrate them into the ancient sword art book, it would bring unimaginable benefits to Chu Fengmian. I didn't expect to get such a good thing after killing Knight Devil Marquis. Chu Fengmian was overjoyed. To others, obtaining the demon god flag was equivalent to obtaining a demon weapon. At most, it would recognize an owner and activate it. But for Chu Fengmian, he had the opportunity to comprehend the demonic arts of the demon god and heavenly demon through the demon god flag and integrate it into the ancient swordsmanship text. This was a much greater harvest than a magic tool. Chu Fengmian had killed Marquis Yemo to establish his prestige, but obtaining the demonic god flag was a pleasant surprise. Thinking of this, Chu Fengmian immediately put the demon god flag into his spatial ring. Seeing that the demon god flag had fallen into Chu Fengmian's hands, many of the martial artists and demon gods present revealed scorching greed in their eyes. The strength of the Knight Demon Marquis was closely related to the demon god flag. It could be said that the Knight Demon Marquis had spent most of his life rushing about in order to create the demon god flag. Everyone knew how powerful this demonic artifact was. For a moment, the gazes of everyone present were fixed on Chu Fengmian. No matter who obtained the demonic god flag, it would be a great help. No matter who it was, they would covet it. Hand over the demon god flag. Just as Chu Fengmian was about to put the demon god flag into his spatial ring, 2 figures suddenly appeared. The 2 figures struck at the same time. In an instant, demonic intent exploded. Waves of demonic intent turned into a huge mountain and pressed down on Chu Fengmian. 6-Path Peak. They are from the 6-Path Demon Sect. Everyone recognized the origin of the mountain at a glance. In the 9 regions, only the 6-Path Demon Sect knew how to use this move. Moreover, to be able to use this move, one had to be one of the 6-Path Demon Sect's 6-Path Demon Masters. The 6-Path Demon Sect has also come to interfere. They are the Human Demon Master and the Battle Demon Master. 2 supremacies are here together. Recognizing the 2 figures, Many of the martial artists and demon gods present were shocked. This time, the two supremacies of the Six Paths Demon Gate had appeared together. The Six Path Demon Sect could be considered the strongest force in the 9 regions. Even the Tianjin Sect and the Desolate Ancient Sect, which were also part of the 7 Great Sects, were slightly inferior to the Six Path Demon Sect. The Tianjin Sect, the Desolate Ancient Sect, the Sage Ruler Sect, and the other 6 Great Sects had vaguely formed an alliance. That was why they were able to contend against the Six Path Demon Sect. The Six Path Demon Masters of the Six Path Demon Sect were famous experts in the 9 regions. Almost every one of them had stepped into the immortal Marquis realm. Some of them were even peerless experts who were close to the immortal King realm. Not only the Battle Demon Master, but even the Human Demon Master is here. Among the 2 masters of the Six Path Demon Sect, everyone's attention was mainly on the old man. The moment the old man made his move, his demonic intent exploded, as if it could drown the heavens and the earth. It was as if the place he was in had become a demonic domain. Demonic intent surged out from his body. The Human Demon Master's strength surpassed everyone present. His strength had reached the pinnacle of the immortal Marquis realm. The Human Demon Master and the Battle Demon Master both made their moves. Demonic intent burst out and condensed into the Six Path Mountain, which came crashing down on Chu Fengmian. Almost at the same time, they made their moves at the same time, trying to grab the demonic god flag in Chu Fengmian's hand. The 2 of them suddenly made their move to snatch the demonic god flag. Rumble, devour. The Six Path Mountain came crashing down with the power to suppress all living things in the world. The space around Chu Fengmian was tightly suppressed. Every move he made was under great pressure. The enormous pressure was enough to crush an ordinary celestial realm martial artist to death. Many people couldn't help but exclaim softly at this scene. The reverends of the 6 Taoist Demon Gate were usually elusive figures. It had been a long time since 2 reverends had joined forces to deal with one another. The 2 of them together had the power to suppress Chu Fengmian on the spot. People of the Six Path Demon Sect, I haven't had the time to find trouble with you, but you've delivered yourselves to me. Chu Fengmian raised his head as killing intent flashed in his eyes. He looked at the 2 figures in the sky, as well as the Six Paths Mountain that was suppressing them. He clenched his fist tightly, and the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword was suddenly unsheathed as it appeared in Chu Fengmian's hand. The moment the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword appeared in Chu Fengmian's hand, Chu Fengmian's aura was completely different from before. His sword intent soared up to the sky. Chu Fengmian's figure seemed to have turned into the sharpest spiritual sword in the world, bursting out with shocking sharpness. Chapter 2246. Chu Fengmian sneered in the face of the 6 Tao peaks that were descending from the sky. He gathered his sword intent on the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword and slashed it towards the peak. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion resounded. The 6 Tao peaks, formed by the 2 Six Tao Demon Sect supremacies, were shattered into pieces by the slash. Chu Fengmian looked at the Human Demon Supremacy and saw the Battle Demon Supremacy trying to snatch the Demon God flag. Chu Fengmian grabbed the Demon God flag and smashed it towards the Human Demon Supremacy and Battle Demon Supremacy. The flag of Demon God burst out with dazzling rays of light. Thousands of demon will burst out from it, erupting with tyrannical and boundless power. The power of the Demon God flag in Chu Fengmian's hand was even stronger than when it was in the hands of Knight Demon Marquis. The Demon God flag was filled with demonic intents as it smashed towards the 2 supremacies. The Human Demon Supremacy and Battle Demon Supremacy were horrified. They immediately activated their defensive demonic techniques and formed layers of barriers. At the same time, the 2 of them retreated rapidly. Bang! The Demon God flag ruthlessly smashed downwards, shattering the many barriers that the 2 supremacies had created together. If the 2 of them had been slightly slower, they would have ended up in an extremely dangerous situation. Even though they had retreated hastily, the auras of the Human Demon Supremacy and Battle Demon Supremacy were still fluctuating violently. Although they managed to dodge the attack, the 2 of them were still slightly affected. Although he had only suffered some minor injuries, the scene still caused the expressions of the countless experts present to change drastically. They had never imagined that the human demon supremacy and battle demon supremacy would still suffer a small loss in the hands of Chu Fengmian. They were two supremacies of the sixth Dao demon sect. They were giants of the demonic Dao. Between the two of them, the battle demon supremacy was stronger than Night Demon Marquis. As for the human demon supremacy, he was even stronger than Night Demon Marquis. Now that the two of them had joined forces, they couldn't gain any advantage in front of Chu Fengmian. They even suffered a small loss. Such strength was simply shocking. This person's strength is close to the Immortal King realm. How is this possible? Half-step celestial being realm has the strength of an Immortal King realm? An immortal general stared at Chu Fengmian and shouted in disbelief. He even suspected that his realm was fake. Even in the ancient books, it was extremely rare to see a super genius who could defeat an immortal general while being a half-step celestial being a realm. Such a genius would become an invincible expert in the future. Reaching the Immortal Marquis realm with the cultivation of a half-step celestial was almost a legend. Such a character was only in legends. And now, the strength that Chu Fengmian displayed was even more terrifying than this legendary figure. With a body of a half-step celestial being, his strength was close to that of an immortal king. It was a legend. God! Fengmian! Everyone's gaze fell on Chu Fengmian. Now, they were doubting whether Chu Fengmian was a human or not. This kind of strength was completely beyond their understanding. The Chu Devil, Be King Demon, Supremacy King, of Demon, Devil, Demon Realms. We can't let such a person continue to grow. Some of the demon immortals and martial artists were determined to kill Chu Fengmian. They were experts from the 7 major sections. The grudge between Chu Fengmian and the 7 major sects was a blood feud that couldn't be resolved. It was the 7 major sects that besieged Sword Dao sect and destroyed it. Chu Fengmian was from one of the 7 major sections. He would have a bloody battle with the 7 major sects in the future. Chu Fengmian was only a half-step celestial being realm, but he could already display such terrifying strength. It would be terrible if he stepped into the celestial being realm. Thinking of this, many people's eyes were filled with killing intent. Today was the best chance to kill Chu Fengmian with so many experts gathered here. You're worthy of being the one who defeated His Majesty. You forced me to retreat with a half-step celestial being realm. You're a legendary genius, the human demon supreme lord said with a tone of praise. Seeing such a genius like you, I really don't want to kill you. Unfortunately, His Majesty wants you dead. We can only follow his orders. Kid, be sensible. Hand over the demon god flag and sword Dao Sect's inheritance, and I'll give you a quick death. I'll spare you some torture. The battle demon supreme lord looked at Chu Fengmian and sneered. Is that so? Then I'd like to see who can kill me. Just the two of you? Chu Fengmian looked at the human demon supreme lord and then at the battle demon supreme lord. He chuckled with disdain on his face. In my opinion, the two of you don't have the ability. Chu Fengmian almost died in the hands of the 6-path demon gates. Hearing that the demon emperor was still alive, Chu Fengmian had always wanted to kill him. However, he didn't have the chance. Now that the human demon supreme lord and the battle demon supreme lord were here, Chu Fengmian could use them as a sacrifice to his sword. Chu Fengmian had comprehended a large amount of sword techniques from the Sword Dao Sect's inheritance and integrated them into the ancient books. He hadn't had the chance to show them off yet. Today, he could use the two of them to test Chu Fengmian's sword techniques. Kid, you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Looks like you won't shed tears until you see the coffin. The battle demon supreme, Lord, snorted coldly after hearing Chu Fengmian's words. Lord Human Demon, there's no need to talk nonsense with him. Capture him and bring him back to His Majesty. Kid, there are more than tens of millions of geniuses in the 9 regions. Unfortunately, once you provoke a true overlord, you're just a mayfly trying to shake a tree. You've overestimated yourself. If you take the initiative to join the 6-path demon gates, you might still have a chance to live. The human demon supreme, Lord, looked at Chu Fengyan and said sternly, "True overlord? Six-path demon gates?" Chu Fengyan suddenly burst into laughter. "What's the six-path demon gates? If the demon emperor dares to come today, I'll kill him. Not to mention, you're just a few supremacies. I've killed more than one supremacy of the six-path demon gates. Since the two of you dare to come, you don't have to go back alive today. After I kill you, the demon emperor won't be a coward anymore." When Chu Fengyan spoke, he burst into loud laughter. However, the words that came out of his mouth caused many people to tremble with fear. Come, Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2247. That's crazy. He doesn't even put the demon emperor in his eyes? Some warriors exclaimed when they heard Chu Fengyan's words. With the rise of the six demon gates, the demon emperor had become one of the invincible giants of the 9 regions. Even ancient sects like the Tianjin sect and the desolate ancient sect were extremely polite to the demon emperor. No one had ever dared to say such words. Chu Fengyan's words were simply a provocation to the entire 6 demon gates. Chu Fengyan's words meant that the relationship between him and the 6 demon gates was irreconcilable. In order to maintain their dignity, the 6 demon gates would never let Chu Fengyan go. Is he really that confident? Everyone couldn't help but look at Chu Fengyan. Everyone was confused. What was Chu Fengyan's trump card? What was he relying on? I think he's too desperate. He can't even protect himself now. Yet he still dares to provoke the 6 demon gates. He's courting death. Another middle-aged warrior sneered. He carried a huge sword case on his back and stood in the air. Waves of sword intent burst out from his body. Immortal Northern Sword. Immortal Northern Sword is also here. Many people only noticed his arrival when he spoke. It seems that the Tianjin sect isn't going to let this go. A demon god muttered to himself when he saw Immortal Northern Sword. He was an invincible great ancestor of the Shang Sword sect. Usually, he would cultivate in seclusion in the Shang Sword sect to break through to a higher realm. He was an invincible expert who rarely walked around the 9 regions. But this time, he actually came out of seclusion and came here. Obviously, he was here for the Shang Sword sect's inheritance. The Tianjin sect was the most coveted sect in the 9 regions. As the number 1 sword sect in the 9 regions, the Tianjin sect wouldn't let go of the Shang Sword sect's inheritance. Now that they saw Immortal Northern Sword arrival, they didn't find it strange. No one from the Tianjin sect had shown up, which made everyone feel strange. It's said that a genius secretly nurtured by the Sky Sword sect died in the Upper Sword sect's examination. Most likely, he died in the hands of this brat. There's no way the Sky Sword sect will let this go and let this brat go. Some cultivators seemed to know some of the inside story and spoke up one after another. Reverend Northern Sword, I didn't expect you to still be alive after 10,000 years. Hearing the discussion, Chu Fengyan looked at the Northern Sword Reverend. Killing intent flashed in Chu Fengyan's eyes when he saw the Northern Sword Reverend. The Northern Sword Immortal was one of the patriarchs of the Tianjin sect 10,000 years ago. When the 7 major sects had attacked the Sword Dao sect, the Northern Sword Immortal had been one of the Tianjin sect's powerhouses. Chu Fengyan would never forget his face. Chu Fengyan didn't forget any of the people who had once attacked the Sword Dao sect. Boy, you've seen me before? The Northern Sword Immortal's face suddenly changed when he heard Chu Fengyan's words. He seemed to recall a rumor that had been circulating among the 7 major sects. That rumor was that Chu Fengyan wasn't a lucky guy who had obtained the inheritance of the Sword Dao sect, but a real disciple of the Sword Dao sect from 10,000 years ago. This rumor had been circulating before, but most people laughed it off when they heard it. Although some tyrannical cultivators could live for tens of thousands of years, even 10,000 years wasn't a big deal. But looking at Chu Fengyan's age, he was only in his 20s. He didn't look like someone who had lived for 10,000 years. Therefore, most people didn't believe this rumor. But now, Chu Fengyan recognized the Northern Sword Immortal at a glance, and even spoke in such a tone. This made the Northern Sword Immortal recall the previous rumor. Of course, I've seen you before. You were just a defeated opponent of the Sword Dao sect, but now you've become a big shot. Chu Fengyan said, with a disdainful smile. You, Chu Fengmian's words made the Northern Sword Immortal's expression change abruptly. 10,000 years ago, when he had mastered his swordsmanship, he went to the Sword Dao sect to challenge his swordsmanship, but he was easily defeated by an ordinary disciple of the Sword Dao sect, a nobody. At that time, this matter could be said to be a laughingstock. For so many years, the Northern Sword Immortal had never mentioned this matter. Now, there were only a few people who knew about it. But now Chu Fengmian suddenly said it out loud. How could he not be surprised? Who exactly are you? The Northern Sword Immortal stared at Chu Fengmian and asked coldly. Even if Chu Fengmian had obtained the inheritance of the Sword Dao sect, he shouldn't know such a secret. The person who killed you. Chu Fengmian glanced at the Northern Sword Immortal with disdain in his eyes. There's no need to waste my breath on a dead man. Chu Fengmian's arrogance stunned everyone. Not only was he arrogant in front of the Six Paths Demon Gate, but he was also arrogant in front of the Northern Sword Enlightened Master. What a dead man! Hearing this, the Northern Sword Immortal laughed instead of being angry. A junior dares to be so presumptuous in front of me? I'd like to see if you can still be so arrogant before your death. The moment the Northern Sword Immortal spoke, a burst of sword intent burst out. A huge sword was pulled out from the sword box on his back. Holding the huge sword, the Northern Sword Immortal took a step forward. Sword intent swept out from his body as he stared at Chu Fengmian. He was ready to kill Chu Fengmian at any time. He provoked the Six Paths Demon Sect and the Tianjin Sect at the same time. This kid is finished today. Seeing the Northern Sword Immortal's rage, everyone shook their heads. Provoking the Six Paths Demon Sect was a disaster for anyone. Now that the Tianjin sect was involved, even if Chu Fengmian had great ability, he would almost certainly die today. It's our Six Paths Demon Sect's business if you want to kill this kid. This person dares to provoke His Majesty the Demon Emperor. This is unforgivable. At this moment, the human demon supremacy suddenly sneered and took the initiative to attack. He suddenly took a step forward, stretched out his palm, and slapped down on Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian had a lot of treasures and countless opportunities. Whoever could kill Chu Fengmian first would have all these treasures. The human demon supremacy was naturally unwilling to let the Northern Sword Immortal take the initiative. Die for me. Although it was a sudden attack, the human demon supremacy had been accumulating his strength while Chu Fengmian was talking with the Northern Sword Immortal. The human demon supremacy's seemingly simple palm strike was actually the most ancient demonic technique of the human demon sect. Come. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2248. Demon descends to the world. Many of the martial artists and demon gods present revealed looks of fear when they saw the palm strike. This palm was one of the most ancient demonic techniques in the human demon sect. Many of them had suffered from it before. The human demon supremacy was still trying to probe Chu Fengmian's strength when he was fighting with him earlier. But now, he wanted to kill Chu Fengmian directly. Billowing demonic intent came crashing down with the power of his palm. The gloomy demonic intent rained down like a rain of blood. For a moment, demons danced wildly and descended to the world. The palm, which carried with it a myriad of demonic wills, suddenly blasted down and directly bombarded Chu Fengmian. Humph! Chu Fengmian snorted. Coldness flashed in his eyes when he saw the palm crashing down. A surge of sword intent burst out from behind Chu Fengmian and condensed on the sword in his hand. He slashed out with his sword. The billowing demonic intent shattered the moment it came into contact with Chu Fengmian's sword. The sword in his hand pressed forward with indomitable will, as if everything that stood in its way would be severed by the sword. The palm that carried thousands of demonic intent was easily neutralized by Chu Fengmian's sword. But at this moment, a figure suddenly appeared above Song Chu Fengmian's head. This figure held a huge spear in his hand. While Chu Fengmian was fighting with the human demon supremacy, the battle demon supremacy also made his move. The battle demon supremacy threw the long spear, which contained a huge force. As the long spear streaked across the space, the surrounding space shattered one after another. The Battle Demon sect was a body-refining sect among the 6 demon sects. Their brute force was unbelievably strong. This long spear was an incomparably powerful magic weapon. Now, with the addition of the battle demon supremacy's immense strength, this spear could destroy a small continent. Many martial artists and demon deities in the surroundings retreated one after another. They were worried about being affected by the aftershocks. Competing with brute force? Chu Fengmian raised his head and looked at the spear that was piercing down. He laughed wildly. All of a sudden, 129,600 immortal crystals condensed in Chu Fengmian's body, forming an invincible defense. Chu Fengmian's physical strength was raised to the extreme. As Chu Fengmian grew stronger, so did the power of his immortal true body. Moreover, when Chu Fengmian devoured a large amount of blood essence to accumulate power, a large amount of immortal power was also devoured by the 129,600 immortal crystals in his body. Now that Chu Fengmian's immortal true body had reached the peak of the 3rd level, Chu Fengmian could feel that the space around him was extremely fragile. With Chu Fengmian's current strength, he could easily tear the surrounding space apart. Chu Fengmian's current physical body was already unbelievably strong. The moment the battle demon High Lord's spear pierced through the sky, Chu Fengmian suddenly stood up, opened his left hand, and clenched it, grasping the power of the spear. Boom! A violent explosion resounded through the heavens and earth. The tyrannical power set off a series of explosions around Chu Fengmian. Everyone could see that at the center of the explosion, Chu Fengmian's left hand had actually caught the spear. The spear that Battle Demon High Lord had thrown down with all his strength was caught in Chu Fengmian's hand. With such a powerful force, not to mention resisting it, even the aftermath was enough to tear apart countless celestial realm experts. But now Chu Fengmian was actually holding the spear in his hand. Rays of crystal light shone from Chu Fengmian's body. It was the power of the 129,600 immortal crystals. Chu Fengmian had caught the spear with his bare hands. The enormous power contained in the spear was also dispersed by Chu Fengmian to the 129,600 immortal crystals. Chu Fengmian stood there with an incomparably relaxed expression, as if he had just done a trivial thing. However, to the martialists and Fey Celestials present, this scene was like a massive wave that swept through everyone's mind. At this moment, the spear had fallen into Chu Fengmian's hand. Chu Fengmian caught it with his bare hands and held it in his palm. He caught it with his bare hands. Seeing this scene, many warriors were speechless for a moment. Their voices were filled with horror as they had seen an extremely terrifying scene. What kind of physical body is this? For most of the warriors and demon gods, the power of this spear was not something they would dare to face head-on even if they activated their immortal weapons, let alone their bare hands. The impact of the collision was enough to tear the body of an immortal marquis apart. However, Chu Fengmian simply stood there and caught the spear with his bare hands. Even though Chu Fengmian was standing there wasn't the slightest injury on his body. The strength of his physical body had reached an unimaginable level. Is this a physical body that humans can achieve? Even demon gods like us can achieve such a terrifying physical body. One of the demon gods shouted in disbelief. He was a rhinoceros demon who had inherited an ancient bloodline. His physical body was incomparably powerful even among the demon gods. But even he didn't dare to take the spear's power head-on, let alone with his bare hands. But now, Chu Fengmian had actually received the long spear with his bare hands. Even when such an enormous power blasted into Chu Fengmian's body, it did not tear Chu Fengmian's body apart. Instead, he was not injured in the slightest. This is the immortal real body, the legendary immortal real body. Suddenly, an old demon god saw the crystalline light emanating from Chu Fengmian's body and thought of something. He shouted loudly, "Immortal real body? The legendary invincible physical body, condensing the physical body into a crystal. It's already a supreme level of body refinement that surpasses the ordinary physical body. This person has actually achieved it? Yes, it seems to be the immortal real body. Look, this person's flesh is already in a crystalline state. This person has completely condensed the immortal real body. Hearing the old demon god's words, all eyes fell on Chu Fengmian's body. Looking at the crystalline light emanating from Chu Fengmian's body and the crystalline flesh, it was exactly the same as the immortal real body recorded in the ancient books. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2249. He has condensed an immortal real body, and he's still in the half-step celestial being realm. The human demon supremacy, fighting demon supremacy, and the others were shocked when they saw Chu Fengmian's crystal light. The immortal real body was a realm that almost everyone in the 9 regions and the extraterritorial starry sky knew about. It was a realm that thousands of martial artists and monster immortals who practiced the way of body refining dreamed of. Once the immortal real body was condensed, it meant that one's body was invincible, far surpassing that of martial artists and monster immortals of the same realm. Once the immortal real body was condensed, it meant that the martial artist could contend with an opponent of the same realm with his body alone without using any power. Even for celestial being realm or monster immortals of the profound heaven realm, anyone who could condense an immortal real body was equivalent to having his strength doubled. With such a physical body, he would be able to fight against 2 or even 3 opponents at once without any fear. What made people even more crazy was that Chu Fengmian was only in the half-step celestial being realm, but he had already condensed an immortal real body. There had always been a rumor in the 9 regions that once a half-step celestial being realm cultivator condensed an immortal real body, he would gain great benefits after crossing the celestial being tribulation and entering the celestial being realm. It was because of this rumor that many genius martial artists would stay in the half-step celestial being realm to condense an immortal real body. But only a few could really do it. Geniuses who could condense a half-step immortal real body and possess some of the characteristics of an immortal real body were extremely rare for most martial artists and monster immortals. Even after entering the celestial being realm, there are only a few who could condense an immortal real body. In people's eyes, a genius who could condense an immortal real body at the half-step celestial being realm was a legend or even a myth. They had never thought that such a genius might appear in front of them. But now, the crystal light emitted from Chu Fengmian's body proved this point. After receiving the inheritance of the Shang Sword sect, Chu Fengmian no longer needed to hide his strength. He had never fully activated the immortal real body before and had always been hiding it. But today, Chu Fengmian didn't need to hide it anymore. Immortal true body of a half-step celestial being. The battle demon supremacy stared at Chu Fengmian with jealousy in his eyes. The battle demon sect also cultivated the body, refining Tao. To him, condensing an immortal true body was also his lifelong pursuit. However, even though he had stepped into the immortal general realm, he had only condensed a half-step immortal real body. He only had a little bit of the characteristics of an immortal real body, but he was still far from a true immortal real body. He had paid a huge price to achieve this. He had no idea how many treasures of the Tao of body refinement he had searched for to achieve this. Now, Chu Fengmian had actually completed the half-step celestial realm immortal true body, which only existed in legends. How could he not be jealous? So what if you have an undying body? The immortal true body is just a slightly stronger body. Even if you condense it, you won't be able to change your fate today. The battle demon supremacy stared at Chu Fengmian and shouted angrily. He was mad with jealousy. The immortal real body that he had never been able to condense was actually condensed by Chu Fengmian. He was so angry that he wanted to kill Chu Fengmian now to ease his jealousy. Battle demon spear, come back. The battle demon supremacy roared. Suddenly, the long spear in Chu Fengmian's hand struggled violently, trying to get out of Chu Fengmian's hand and return to the battle demon supremacy's hand. The battle demon spear was the most precious treasure of the battle demon sect. It had been passed down since the peak of the six-path demon sects tens of thousands of years ago. It had the mark of the battle demon sect, and only the supremacy of the battle demon sect was qualified to use it. Even if others obtained it, they wouldn't be able to remove the mark. Therefore, the battle demon supremacy wasn't afraid of others obtaining it. As long as he activated the secret technique, the battle demon spear would return to his hand. But this time, something unexpected happened. Chu Fengyan said with a smile on his face, "Since you've sent it here, there's no need to take it back." Ancient Emperor seizing Art of War. Suddenly, Chu Fengyan activated the Ancient Emperor seizing Art of War. An invisible force enveloped the battle demon spear. The war demon spear, which had been struggling fiercely before, suddenly gave up on struggling when it was enveloped by this invisible force. It quieted down. At the same time, the battle demon supremacy suddenly felt that the battle demon spear, which was connected to him by blood, had suddenly lost its connection with him. He was stunned for a moment. "Battle demon, why are you wasting your time?" The human supremacy berated the battle demon supremacy when he saw the stunned battle demon supremacy. "Battle demon spear, cut off the connection with me." The battle demon supremacy's expression changed abruptly, and he said hesitantly, "What?" The human supremacy and demon supremacy were shocked. The demonic weapons of the six-path demon sects were passed down tens of thousands of years ago, and they had the mark of the six-path demon sects on them. No one was qualified to use them unless they were from the six-path demon sects. However, the connection with the battle demon spear was cut off the moment it fell into Chu Fengyan's hands. The ancient emperor seizing Art of War was known as one of the supreme immortal techniques that could even seize an extreme immortal weapon. Although Chu Fengyan couldn't do it now, it would be easy for him to seize such a small demonic weapon. Damn it, where did this kid get so many secret techniques? The human supremacy and demon supremacy cursed. What Chu Fengyan had just displayed was the bloodline of primogeniture Tianlong, the unparalleled sword Dao, the immortal true body, and the secret technique. Even if Chu Fengyan came out of his mother's womb, he might not be able to cultivate so many secret techniques. Release the blood demon. The human demon supremacy suddenly roared. The battle demon supremacy beside him also nodded. Immediately, a shocking amount of blood chi soared into the sky from their bodies. Many people noticed that the blood chi wasn't the blood chi of the human supremacy and battle demon supremacy, but a blood chi that was entrusted to them. Currently, the two of them had broken a forbidding aura, allowing them to release the blood aura they had stored in their bodies. The blood chi soared to the sky, and the surroundings turned into a world of blood. It made people shudder. Suddenly, figures appeared in the blood chi. Come, wonderful book house. Chapter 2250. What's that? Looking at the figure walking out of the bloody mist, many warriors present suddenly trembled. Even though they were observing from afar, they could clearly feel that whatever came out of this bloody mist was definitely something extremely terrifying. Blood Demon Son. It's the men of sacrifice of the Six Paths Demon Sect. It said that the Six Paths Demon Sect refined the men of sacrifice with an extremely vicious demonic technique. Every Blood Demon Son needs the essence, blood, and souls of 3 celestial realm experts to be refined. It's a blood demon that only obeys orders. Some of the older and more knowledgeable martial artists spoke up to explain. The Six Paths Demon Sect has really put in a lot of effort this time. They even brought the Blood Demon Son out. They need the essence, blood, and souls of 3 celestial realm experts to refine a Blood Demon Son. Many people's expressions changed when they heard this. This was simply an extremely vicious method, which had refined the experts in the celestial realm into such demonic creatures that only knew how to kill and obey orders. It said that this batch of blood demons was refined by the Six Paths Demon Sect when they destroyed 9 Demon City. A martial artist of the 9 regions who knew some inside information said, in the past, the Six Paths Demon Sect didn't exist among the 7 sects of the 9 regions. At that time, it was 9 Demon City that occupied this position. However, after Chu Fengyan left the 9 regions had undergone earth-shaking changes. 9 Demon City, the former number 1 sect of the demonic path, was destroyed by the Six Paths Demon Sect. The experts of the demonic path in 9 Demon City were refined into blood demons by the Six Paths Demon sect. It said that there are only a dozen blood demons in the Six Paths Demon sect. They have always been the personal guards of the Demon Emperor. I didn't expect that the human demon supremacy and fighting demon supremacy would bring them out this time. The moment the old man who spoke first looked at the blood demon, fear appeared in his eyes. The blood demon's son is just an immortal warrior. Is he really so powerful? Some martial artists who hadn't seen the blood demon's son before couldn't help but ask. The weakest of the demon immortals present who dared to compete for the inheritance of the Upper Sword sect were immortal generals. There were also quite a few immortal marquises. They could see that the blood devil formed from the blood chi was around the immortal warrior realm. An immortal general could easily kill 10 immortal warriors. Therefore, they didn't understand why so many people were so afraid of the blood demon. What do you know? The blood demon is not used for battle. It's used to set up a formation. The most terrifying killing formation of the 6 Tao demon gates was set up by the blood demon. The blood devil killing formation, formed by 3 blood devils, can easily trap an immortal marquis to death. The old man could not help but mutter as he stared at the bloody chi and the figures that were still floating. I wonder how many blood devils have come this time. So terrifying. The 3 blood devils formed a killing formation that could easily kill an immortal marquis. This was something they couldn't imagine. Just as the crowd was discussing, the blood demons had already condensed from the bloody aura and slowly walked out. Each of the blood devils looked taller than the average person. They were about 3 meters tall and looked like giants. However, the blood devil had no facial features. His face was blank and looked extremely strange. He also had no clothes. Instead, he was purely blood red. He looked like a human figure condensed from blood essence. There were a total of 6 blood devils. They were born from the bloody chi and stood respectfully behind the human demon sovereign. The blood devils had no meaning of their own. They were devils that only knew how to kill. The only thing they knew was to obey orders and kill the enemy. 6. A total of 6 blood devils. The old man's eyes were filled with shock. The blood devil killing formation, formed by 6 blood devils, is said to be able to kill an immortal king. Able to kill an immortal king. These few words sent chills down everyone's spine. Immortal king. Even in the current 9 domains, every immortal king was a supreme powerhouse. They wouldn't make a move unless they had no other choice. But now, the 6 blood devils could actually kill an immortal king when they joined forces. Blood devils. Chu Fumian also saw the figure that walked out. He recognized it at a glance. It was the blood demon, refined from the most vicious demonic technique of the 6 demonic sects. His eyes revealed a bit of cold, killing intent. Not only did each blood devil require the blood essence of 3 celestial realm experts, but it also required the blood essence to be extracted and refined alive. Only then could a blood devil be condensed. It could be said that those celestial realm experts who refined the blood devils had to endure great pain. They would only die when their blood essence was extracted bit by bit. In the past, when the 6 Paths demon gates dominated the 9 regions, they had captured countless experts and refined them into blood devils. Now, the 6 Paths demon gates' nature had not changed. The 6 blood devils in front of him represented that the 6 Paths demon gates had captured at least 18 celestial realm experts and extracted their blood essence to give birth to these 6 blood devils. Brat, His Majesty really thinks highly of you. This time, he specially ordered us to bring 6 blood devils just to kill you. The human demon lord stared at Chu Fengyan and sneered. You should be proud that you made the 6 Paths demon gates pay such a great price to deal with you. Now die. Blood devil killing formation. The human demon lord roared. Suddenly, the 6 blood devils pounced on Chu Fengyan. Although these blood devils were only at the immortal warrior realm, they were extremely fast. 6 blood devils suddenly rushed to the 6 corners around Chu Fengyan, preparing to form a killing formation. Sword out. Chu Fengyan unsheathed his sword and slashed out again and again. The bodies of the blood devils were shattered under Chu Fengyan's sword. However, the moment the bodies of the blood devils were shattered, a burst of demonic intent suddenly burst out. The bodies of the blood devils were condensed again. Chu Fengmian slashed out dozens of times in an instant, killing the blood devils dozens of times. However, the blood devils would reconstruct their bodies the moment they were killed. They could be said to be immortal and indestructible. Even after Chu Fengmian killed them dozens of times, the power of the blood devils was not affected at all. It was as if being killed dozens of times was far from a threat to them. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2251. These blood devils are just as the rumors say. Unless all the essence blood is destroyed, they are almost indestructible existences. Chu Fengmian thought to himself as he watched the slain blood devils recover easily. Chu Fengmian had heard about how difficult it was to deal with the blood demons in some ancient books. Now that Chu Fengmian had fought with the blood demons, he realized that they were much more difficult to deal with than what was recorded in the ancient books. In order to kill these blood devils, one would have to kill them at least 1,000 times and exhaust all the power contained in their blood essence. Only then could one truly kill these blood devils. However, it was clear that the human demon supremacy and the fighting demon supremacy would not give Chu Fengmian this opportunity. Under the command of the human demon supremacy, the 6 blood demons immediately surrounded Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian urged his sword to kill again and again, but it did not affect their speed at all. These 6 blood devils besieged Chu Fengmian in the center. Suddenly, an incomparably huge amount of blood chi erupted from them. The blood chi soared into the sky and immediately turned into a huge formation. This formation completely shrouded Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian could feel that the sky was covered by the bloody aura that filled the sky. The endless bloody aura erupted and vaguely triggered the bloody aura within Chu Fengmian's body. The 6 blood demons formed the blood demon killing formation, which was enough to arouse the blood chi of all the martial artists and demon immortals in the formation and extract their bodies. One had to know that even for a celestial realm expert, the most important thing to them was the blood essence in their body. The blood essence was the source of life and power. No matter if their bodies were destroyed or killed, as long as there was a lump of blood essence, there was a possibility of rebirth. However, if one's blood essence and blood chi were to be completely devoured, then no matter how powerful the expert was, he would definitely die. The blood demon killing array was a killing array that targeted the blood chi in a cultivator's body. It was extremely vicious. Once the blood chi was extracted, no matter how powerful the expert was, the only path left for him was death. The blood demon killing array is complete. This brat is finished. Seeing that Chu Fengmian had already been trapped by the blood demon killing array, the elder who had spoken earlier shook his head and said, once the blood demon killing formation was activated, even immortal kings would find it hard to escape from it. As for immortal marquis and demon immortals, they wouldn't have the slightest chance of escaping from it. Brat, let's see what other methods you have to resist this blood demon killing formation. The war demon supremacy sneered. Blood chi burst out from his body and poured into the blood demon killing array, activating its power. All of a sudden, the 6 blood demons in the blood demon killing array devoured a large amount of blood aura and condensed into a huge figure that was 10 meters tall. It looked like an enlarged version of the blood demon. The huge blood devil condensed and opened its mouth, releasing a boundless suction force. In an instant, Chu Fengmian felt that his blood essence began to tremble, as if it was going to break out of his body under the suction force. Interesting. The power of the 6 blood demons condensed together can reach such a terrifying level. Chu Fengmian could clearly feel that the blood demon killing array formed by the 6 blood demons was difficult for any immortal marquis to resist. Even experts at the level of the divine Wood Sword Emperor couldn't resist such a huge suction force. Their blood essence could be forcefully sucked out and devoured. However, the blood demon killing array was nothing to Chu Fengmian. His blood essence was so strong that even immortal marquis couldn't match it, let alone immortal kings. Come out! Chu Fengmian let out a long roar. The dormant power in his blood suddenly burst out. Chu Fengmian's blood essence power erupted. These surges of power condensed into 3 phantoms, which suddenly appeared behind Chu Fengmian. Primogenitor Tianlong, Xianjing, heaven-devouring beast. The power of the 3 innate divine beasts in Chu Fengmian's blood suddenly burst out. In an instant, the power in Chu Fengmian's body rose steadily. The blood demon killing array, which was still trembling, suddenly calmed down. No matter how the blood demon killing array devoured, it couldn't shake Chu Fengmian's blood essence. The power of the blood demon killing array was almost pushed to the extreme, but Chu Fengmian still stood there, not moving at all. Chu Fengmian even had the strength to spare. He suddenly threw out a punch, which directly blasted towards the blood demon killing array in front of him. Boom! It was a loud noise. At the place where Chu Fengmian's punch landed, cracks appeared on the blood demon killing array. The blood demon killing array, which was said to be invincible under the Immortal King realm, was shattered by Chu Fengmian's punch. Countless cracks appeared on it, and it seemed to be on the verge of collapse. How was this possible? How could this brat withstand the blood demon killing array? The battle demon supremacy looked at Chu Fengmian in disbelief, especially when he saw that a crack had appeared on the blood demon killing array. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The blood demon killing array was said to be invincible under the Immortal King realm. Usually, in the 6 demon sects, they would only use the blood demons to form the blood demon killing array when they encountered a formidable enemy. Once the blood demon killing array was formed, the blood demons would consume a lot of energy. If a blood demon master were to form the blood demon killing array 3 times, his energy would be exhausted and he would die. This time, in order to deal with Chu Fengmian, the demon emperor had put a lot of effort. He directly asked the human demon supremacy, battle demon supremacy, and 6 blood demons to form the blood demon killing array to kill Chu Fengmian. In their opinion, using the blood demon killing array to kill a half-step celestial being warrior, no matter how powerful and monstrous Chu Fengmian was, he would definitely die. Unexpectedly, the blood demon killing array couldn't do anything to Chu Fengmian, especially when they saw the 3 incomparably huge phantoms behind Chu Fengmian. They all sucked in a breath of cold air. 3 innate divine beasts. This is the black whale, primogenitor Tianlong, heaven-devouring beast. This man actually has the bloodline of 3 innate divine beasts. This is simply impossible. Even the most knowledgeable warriors were stunned when they saw the 3 incomparably huge phantoms behind Chu Fengmian. They were speechless for a long time. Come, Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2252. Previously, when Chu Fengmian transformed into Ancestor Tianlong, everyone could see that Chu Fengmian's body contained an extremely pure innate divine beast bloodline, which was already extremely shocking. But now, the bloodline that erupted from Chu Fengmian's body contained more innate divine beast bloodline than just Ancestor Tianlong's. It also contained the bloodline of the heaven-devouring beast and the black whale. Chu Fengmian's bloodline actually contained the power of these 3 innate divine beast bloodlines. Especially now, when the power of Chu Fengmian's bloodline erupted, it could even condense a shadow. This bloodline power was not just a little bit. It contained an extremely tyrannical power. No one has ever possessed the bloodline of 3 innate divine beast bloodlines at the same time. How did this person do it? Shouldn't the conflict between the bloodlines have torn him apart long ago? An old demon immortal who had lived for tens of thousands of years looked at Chu Fengmian with extreme shock. The power of bloodline was indeed a great reliance of demon immortals. It could be said that many demon immortals who had stepped into the celestial realm no longer had pure bloodline. They had all devoured the power of other bloodlines for their own use. However, any bloodline power could only be integrated into one bloodline. Once 2 bloodlines were integrated, the 2 bloodlines would inevitably conflict with each other. In light cases, one would be injured, and in serious cases, one would be in danger of dying. In particular, the more powerful the bloodline, the more exclusive it was. It would never allow other bloodlines to share the same body. The innate divine beast bloodline was ranked above the thousands of bloodlines. It was the most powerful bloodline. Not to mention 3 innate divine beast bloodlines. Even if 2 innate divine beast bloodlines were integrated into a warrior's body, the warrior would be torn apart alive by the power of the 2 innate divine beast bloodlines. But now, Chu Fengyan could accommodate 3 innate divine beast bloodlines at the same time and mobilize them at will. This was simply an impossible thing in his view. It was beyond common sense. Even an invincible immortal emperor could not do this. Alien, this person is no longer a human. How could such an existence be born? The demon immortal murmured to himself. Not only him, but some of the other warriors also looked at Chu Fengyan with fear in their eyes. Many of them even had killing intent flashing in their eyes. Chu Fengyan could no longer be described as a genius or a monster. Even those famous monstrous geniuses in history could not be mentioned in the same breath as Chu Fengyan. Such a person must not be allowed to live. When the battle demon supremacy and human demon supremacy saw the cracks on the blood-killing array, they immediately opened their empty rings, from which jade bottles flew out one after another. These jade bottles shattered in the air, and all of them contained blood essence, which was the blood essence of demon gods above the celestial realm. From the looks of it, there were dozens of celestial realm cultivators' blood essence. Boiling blood. The moment the blood essence flew out, the battle demon supremacy roared and suddenly turned into a blood mist that filled the sky. The blood mist immediately flew towards the blood god killing array and merged with it. As the blood mist merged with the blood god killing array, the power and aura of the blood god killing array rose steadily. The cracks on it were repaired one after another. In an instant, the power of the blood god killing array was even stronger than before. The blood god killing array formed by the 6 blood devils was almost as difficult to deal with as the blood devils. Even if it was broken, it could be repaired as long as it devoured blood chi. This was the most powerful aspect of the blood god's killing array. Unless one could destroy all the blood chi in the blood god's killing array, one would be trapped in the blood god's killing array at all times. Sooner or later, one would run out of energy and die. Let's see how much blood essence you have left. However, Chu Fengyan sneered. Looking at the restored blood god killing array, he suddenly took a step forward. The sword in his hand flickered, and in an instant several sword lights slashed out. The power contained in the sword lights included the power of yin and yang, the power of yin and cold, the power of extreme yang, and also the power of pure sharpness. In an instant, Chu Fengyan displayed dozens of sword techniques. Each of these sword techniques was at the immortal technique level. They were the sword techniques that Chu Fengyan had comprehended from the Shang Sword Sect's library. Although many of the sword techniques could only be classified as ordinary sword techniques in the Shang Sword Sect's library. In fact, the sword techniques that could be placed in the Shang Sword Sect's library were at the immortal technique level. Sword techniques below the immortal technique level were not qualified to be placed in the Shang Sword Sect's library. Since Chu Fengyan obtained these sword techniques and integrated them into the Sword Principle Ancient Book, he had not really used them against an enemy. This time, the Blood God Killing Array could let Chu Fengyan familiarize himself with the sword techniques. Boom! Boom! With Chu Fengyan's current strength, even an ordinary immortal technique could erupt with the power of an immortal marquee expert. In an instant, the dozens of sword techniques slashed out at the same time, almost equivalent to dozens of immortal marquee experts attacking at the same time. Even an immortal king expert would have to avoid such a force. Streaks of sword techniques slashed the blood god killing array. Suddenly, more cracks appeared on the blood god killing array. Even the blood god killing array could not withstand the slashes of so many sword techniques. Not good. The human demon supremacy's expression changed drastically. He threw out a large amount of essence blood, which turned into a blood mist and merged into the blood god killing array. However, the moment the essence blood merged into the blood god killing array and repaired the cracks, it was broken by Chu Fengyan's sword techniques in the next moment. Chu Fengmian seemed to have endless power. He stood in the array and did not stop at all. He waved the spiritual sword and launched new sword techniques at every moment. Even the blood god killing array's recovery speed could not catch up with Chu Fengmian's sword light. Chu Fengmian had the divine pulse, so he was not afraid of consuming energy. Perhaps other martialists who were trapped in the blood god killing array would not have dared to unleash their full power like Chu Fengmian. Ordinary martialists would have been exhausted in a quarter of an hour in such a state. However, Chu Fengmian had the divine pulse, which constantly replenished his power. He could unleash his strongest sword technique at any time without any reservation, under the continuous slashes of sword techniques. For a moment, the blood god killing array was on the verge of collapse. It was full of cracks and was about to shatter in the next moment. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2253. If the fighting demon supremacy and the human demon supremacy hadn't expended a large amount of blood essence to restore the blood god's killing array, it would have been destroyed a long time ago. Even so, the blood god's killing array was trembling nonstop, as though it was about to shatter at any moment. One could clearly see Chu Fengmian in the depths of these cracks. Is this kid's strength limitless? The fighting demon supremacy stared at the blood god's killing array that was about to shatter with a hint of madness in his eyes. Even for immortal marquises like them, such a frenzied attack could only last for a quarter of an hour at most. They weren't like Chu Fengmian, who was still using his full strength. It was as if his strength was limitless. They had originally planned to trap Chu Fengmian with the blood god's killing array. Even if they couldn't kill Chu Fengmian on the spot, they could at least exhaust his strength. Now that the blood god's killing array was about to be destroyed by Chu Fengmian, his aura didn't weaken at all. Instead, it grew stronger and stronger. Chu Fengmian performed one sword technique after another. Every time he performed a sword technique, he gained a deeper understanding of each sword technique. The profoundness of a sword technique couldn't be comprehended through mere comprehension. It also required a real battle. The blood god's killing array was an opportunity for Chu Fengmian to hone the countless sword techniques he had obtained from the Shang Sword Sect's library. As Chu Fengmian displayed these sword techniques again and again, his understanding of these sword techniques grew stronger and stronger. The various profoundness of these sword techniques were integrated into the ancient swordsmanship books, making his strength stronger and stronger. We can't keep wasting time like this. The human demon supremacy and the fighting demon supremacy looked at each other with the same thought in their eyes. They didn't care how Chu Fengmian had achieved all this, but they could see that Chu Fengmian's strength would only grow stronger if this continued. It wasn't a good thing. Heavenly devil, true body, devil descends to heaven and earth. The human demon supremacy and the fighting demon supremacy suddenly took a step forward. Billowing demonic intent erupted from their bodies as they displayed their strongest trump cards. Their bodies were surrounded by the billowing demonic intent in the air. Suddenly, they grew 3 to 4 times their original size. Pitch-black scales appeared on their skin, and a 1-meter-long horn grew from their heads. A pair of wings sprouted from their backs, and demonic flames filled the sky with every move they made. They no longer looked like humans, but more like members of the Devil Clan. Demonic secret art, demonic intent, and demonic body. Demonic body. Demonic transformation. After being demonized, their strength increased by 3 to 4 times. This was especially true for the human sovereign lord. His strength was already at the peak of the immortal Marquis realm. Now that he was demonized, he was close to the 5th order of the immortal king realm. The 2 demonized figures suddenly rushed towards Chu Fengmian and blasted out a punch. The punch contained demonic flames. The demonic flames burned the sky and turned into a sea of fire as it roared towards Chu Fengmian. Demonic transformation. This is demonic transformation. This was the first time many of the martial artists and demonic immortals had seen demonification. This demonification secret art was something that only experts with high status in the Six Paths Demon Gates could learn. Only the Six Paths Demon Gates High Lords were qualified to learn it. The supremacies of the Six Paths Demon sects rarely fought, let alone when they were in such a predicament. The demonic transformation secret art was their strongest trump card. Everyone had heard of the demonic transformation secret art in the Six Paths Demon sects, but it was their first time seeing it with their own eyes. The demonic transformation secret art was indeed the most powerful secret art in the Six Paths Demon sects. It could raise the strength of the human demon supremacy and the fighting demon supremacy to a whole new level. This kind of strength could be said to be the pinnacle of the 9 regions. Now that the two of them had joined forces, their strength was even stronger. Demonic flames swept out from the fist. It had the power to destroy heaven and earth. Demonic transformation secret art? Break it! Chu Fengmian shouted coldly. He raised his head and looked at the demonic flames. Suddenly, he waved his hand and a colorless flame appeared on his sword. He slashed out. When the sword was slashed out, scorching flames roared out and turned into a sea of fire as well. The two balls of flames clashed in the air. The scorching heat waves were so hot that if a celestial realm elite were to get close, they would be melted immediately. At the same time, on the other side, Chu Fengmian suddenly threw out a punch. The moment the punch was thrown out, the two phantoms, the mysterious whale and the ancestral heavenly dragon, merged into Chu Fengmian's punch. Dragon whale, sea-splitting fist. Bang! He threw a punch at the blood god killing array in front of him. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, the blood god killing array was smashed into pieces by a single punch. Even the blood demon, who was said to be immortal and indestructible, was killed by this punch. The battle demon reverend and the human demon reverend were infuriated when they saw this scene. The six-path demon reverend had to spend a lot of effort to refine each of the blood devils. The 6 blood demons were the most important forces of the 6 demon sects. Now, they were all killed by Chu Fengmian. He smashed the blood god killing array and killed the blood demon's son. Everyone was at a loss for words. Chu Fengmian was actually able to break the blood god killing array. Now, he wasn't at a disadvantage even when facing the human demon supremacy and battle demon supremacy. This made many martial artists from the 7 sects unable to hold back their anger. The 7 sects had a deep grudge against Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian's strength was already so terrifying. If they did not kill him today, it would be a disaster for them. The two of you, let me help you. A shocking sword radiance suddenly descended from the sky. This sword radiance was in the shape of a giant sword that was tens of thousands of feet long. It suddenly slashed toward Chu Fengmian. Whoosh! This shocking sword light slashed down. Wherever it passed, the space was torn apart. Even the space in the depths of the void could not withstand the sharpness of the sword light. Sword of heaven and earth. Northern sword immortal. Someone recognized the origin of this sword. It was the invincible sword technique that Northern Sword Immortal had displayed. Among the 7 sects, the experts from the other sects could not help but take action. After witnessing Chu Fengmian's strength, Northern Sword Immortal did not hesitate to join forces with the 6 demon sects to besiege Chu Fengmian. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2254. Although the 6 demon sects and the Tianjin sect were both part of the 7 great sects of the 9 domains, they were vaguely hostile to each other. But now, in order to kill Chu Fengmian, Immortal North Sword couldn't care less. The strength Chu Fengmian displayed made him feel somewhat frightened. He felt that if he didn't kill Chu Fengmian today, Chu Fengmian would become an even greater threat to the 6 demon sects in the future. Obviously, this sword light wasn't shot out suddenly. Even Immortal North Sword needed some time to accumulate such power. Now that he suddenly attacked, it was more like a sneak attack. However, even though everyone knew that Immortal North Sword had launched a sneak attack, no one dared to stop him. The winner takes all. No one would offend a colossus like the Tianjin sect for a dying man. War demon supremacy and human demon supremacy were almost at the pinnacle of Immortal Marquis realm. Human demon supremacy's strength after activating the demonization secret technique was close to that of an immortal king. Now that another peak immortal marquis had joined the fray, Chu Fengmian was doomed no matter how strong he was. Let me help you too. Count me in. Kill. Scorching Sun Halberd. Whoosh. The moment Taoist North Sword made his move, dozens of figures suddenly rushed toward Chu Fengmian. Each of them unleashed their own immortal arts and bombarded Chu Fengmian with them. These figures were the immortal generals and demon immortals who hadn't joined the fray yet. They also came for the inheritance of the Supreme Sword sect, but the confrontation between Chu Fengmian and War Demon Supremacy and Human Demon Supremacy wasn't something they could participate in. Even the aftermath of the battle wasn't something they could bear. But now, Immortal North Sword's attack had almost sealed Chu Fengmian's death. They were taking advantage of the situation to attack. They weren't qualified to obtain the inheritance of the Supreme Sword sect. But now that they had joined the fray, they could gain some favor from the 7 great sects, which was enough for them. Although there were experts from outer space in the 9 domains, in fact, the 7 great sects were still the most powerful. Attacking Chu Fengmian at this time meant that they could establish a good relationship with the 7 great sections. For them, it was a win-win situation. Even though most of these martial artists and demon immortals had no enmity with Chu Fengmian, they didn't mind adding insult to injury for their own benefit. There were many demon immortals with similar thoughts. Almost 2/3 of the demon immortals watching from the side attacked Chu Fengmian at this moment. The strength of one immortal general might not be much, but when dozens of immortal generals joined forces, even an immortal marquis or immortal king would have to be cautious. When they joined forces, it was still an extremely terrifying force. Do you really think I'm going to die? Chu Fengmian knew what these martial artists and demon immortals were thinking when he saw their sudden attack. His eyes were filled with frenzied, killing intent. Originally, Chu Fengmian couldn't be bothered with these immortal generals and demon immortals. However, since they wanted to hit him while he was down, Chu Fengmian wouldn't tolerate them. Sword out. Suddenly, the titanic divine sword was unsheathed from Chu Fengmian's left hand. When the 2 swords were unsheathed, Chu Fengmian's strength reached its peak. Waves of sword intent erupted from his body. Above Chu Fengmian's head, a small spiritual sword emerged. This was the condensation of Chu Fengmian's sword intent. His sword intent had reached a sufficiently solid level. Chu Fengmian combined his 2 swords and suddenly let out a long howl. The power of the ancient book of swordsmanship in his body was pushed to the extreme. Thousands of sword wills were integrated into the 2 swords. 9 domains. Sky splitting. Chu Fengmian combined his 2 swords. The sword soared into the sky and slashed out. This was his strongest sword move, the strongest sword technique he had created. Boom, boom, boom. Dazzling sword light soared into the sky, exuding endless sword power. The pure power of the sword that could split heaven and earth was unleashed, sweeping away everything in its path. In the sky, the sword that first collided with the sword light of the North Sword Immortal. The 2 sword intents collided in the air, shattering the sword light in an instant. The sword light, unleashed by the Reverend North Sword, was not even qualified to contend with the Sky Splitter sword. In the next moment, the sky splitting swept across the sky. Those immortal generals who wanted to take the opportunity to besiege Chu Fengmian and hit him while he was down were all shrouded by the sword light. The expressions of these immortal generals changed dramatically. Their immortal techniques were as weak as ants in front of the sky splitting. They couldn't even shake the sharpness of the sword light. The sword light swept across. Almost in an instant, several immortal generals were beheaded by the sword light. Their bodies were shattered, and countless essence and blood were condensed by an invisible force and poured into Chu Fengmian's body. The power of heaven and earth of the 9 domains couldn't trigger Chu Fengmian's celestial tribulation. Although he couldn't improve his strength now, he could keep accumulating power. No matter how much power he accumulated, it wouldn't trigger the celestial tribulation. Once Chu Fengmian stepped into the celestial realm, all the accumulated power would erupt. For Chu Fengmian, The more essence and blood of celestial realm experts, the better. Chu Fengyan was worried that it would be difficult to find them. Now, it was delivered to him. Not a single one of the dozens of immortal generals, martial artists, and demon immortals who wanted to take advantage of the situation were able to survive. Their bodies were all shattered by the sharpness of the sky-splitting sword. Every immortal general was a big shot of a force in the 9 domains, not to mention these dozens of immortal generals. Even the 7 sects didn't have so many immortal generals. But now, they were all killed by Chu Fengyan's swordlight. Chu Fengyan didn't feel the slightest fluctuation in his heart after killing them. Since these people wanted to hit Chu Fengyan while he was down and take advantage of the situation by besieging him, it was only right and proper for them to die in Chu Fengyan's hands. In the whole void, there were only 3 figures left in front of Chu Fengyan. Human Demon Supremacy, Fighting Demon Supremacy, and Northern Sword Immortal. The faces of these 3 figures were extremely pale. If they hadn't dodged the sword light in time, they would have died without a doubt if they were caught in it. The power of this sword light was unbelievably strong. Northern Sword Immortal didn't know how many kinds of sword-devouring techniques he knew, but he had never seen such a domineering sword technique. He had even seen the Immortal Emperor's sword technique. As the only sword sect among the 7 sects, the Tianjin sect didn't have as many sword techniques as the Shang sword sect, but the number of sword techniques it had was extremely terrifying. However, no matter how knowledgeable he was, he had never seen such a sword light. Chapter 2255. Chu Fengyan's strength had improved by leaps and bounds as he obtained a large number of sword techniques from the ruins of the Shang sword sect. The power of his sword techniques was vastly different from before. In terms of sword Dao, Chu Fengyan's comprehension of sword Dao had even surpassed many immortal emperors. The biggest obstacle for him to display his sword techniques was his own strength. Chu Fengyan had comprehended countless sword techniques from the ruins of the Shang sword sect and integrated all of them into the ancient books of sword Dao. Although he didn't step into the celestial realm in one fell swoop, his strength had reached a new level. With Chu Fengyan's current strength, the power of the heaven-splitting sword technique was far greater than before. Dozens of immortal generals and several immortal marquises were killed by the sword. Now, only the Northern Sword Reverend, Human Demon Reverend, and Battle Demon Reverend were left. I didn't expect that there are still 3 alive. Chu Fengyan withdrew his sword and slowly looked over. The 3 of them looked extremely solemn. They had thought that killing Chu Fengyan would be a piece of cake. They had never thought that Chu Fengyan would have such terrifying strength. They had come to besiege Chu Fengyan, but now they had become a trap set by Chu Fengyan. The Celestials who came here had fallen into a dead end. However, since you're all here, you can also be buried with the others, Chu Fengyan said slowly. Chu Fengyan said slowly. Although his tone was calm, it contained a kind of supreme majesty. No one could go against Chu Fengyan's words. Even Battle Demon's Supremacy and Immortal North Sword, who had been invincible for a long time, couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. Let's go. Without hesitation, the 3 of them turned into rays of light and immediately flew towards the edge of the void. They wanted to leave the void and return to the 9 domains. They had used all their means to besiege Chu Fengyan, but to no avail. Instead, more than half of them had been killed by Chu Fengyan, including Human Demon Supremacy and the 6 blood devils whom he relied on the most. They also knew that it was impossible for them to deal with Chu Fengyan with their strength alone. Therefore, they made a prompt decision and fled towards the edge of the void. The speed of the 3 streaks of light was pushed to the limit. The 3 of them were using their full strength to drive the streaks of light to escape. Tianlong blockade. Chu Fengyan looked at the 3 streaks of light and stood still. However, the shadow of progenitor Tianlong suddenly rose from behind him. This huge shadow seemed to cover the entire sky above the depths of the void. Spatial energy surged and erupted. In an instant, the entire deep region of the void was covered by this spatial energy. Instantly, it solidified and sealed the entire deep region of the void. The stronger Chu Fengmian was, the more powerful his secret techniques would become when he activated them. The three streaks of light slowed down in an instant. Under the suppression of such a huge spatial force, it was almost impossible for them to move an inch. Right at this moment, three incomparably huge dragon claws formed above Chu Fengmian's head. Covering the sky and splitting the sun, they abruptly clawed at the trio. Die for me! The power contained in the three incomparably huge dragon claws was enough to sweep away everything. The moment they swept across, some of the void beasts in the depths of the void were directly smashed into pieces. The power contained in the dragon claws that crossed thousands of miles did not diminish in the slightest. Not good. The faces of Northern Sword Immortal and the others changed abruptly. They could clearly see the terrifying power contained in the three huge dragon claws that crossed thousands of miles. In an instant, they exerted all their strength to resist. The three of them joined forces and formed a seven-color barrier in front of Luo Yunyang. Almost all of their power was channeled into the seven-colored barrier. Umph! Chu Fengmian sneered. Seeing the seven-colored light condense, Chu Fengmian's mind flickered. Above his head, 6 more dragon claws formed and fiercely bombarded down. 9 dragon claws crossed thousands of miles and bombarded the seven-colored light barrier. The power of the heavens and the earth was enough to shatter the seven-colored light barrier. In an instant, countless cracks appeared on the seven-colored light barrier, and it shattered. Puff! The human demon sovereign, Northern Sword Immortal, and fighting demon sovereign all spurted out blood. Half of their bodies were shattered by the aftershock, and blood mist filled the sky for a moment. Under the joint attack of the three of them, they were all seriously injured and rolled away. They did not even have the ability to instantly restore their physical bodies. Die! Chu Fengmian sneered. Suddenly, another dragon claw bombarded down. How dare you! The moment the dragon claw slammed down, the surrounding space was suddenly torn apart. Tens of thousands of sword rays burst out. The sword rays seemed to be one, but they also seemed to be divided into tens of thousands of sword rays. The power they contained was so strong that it even surpassed the Northern Sword Taoist. Phantom Sword Technique of Greater Mastery? Phantom Sword Master? The moment Chu Fengmian saw these thousands of sword rays, he suddenly knew the origin of these sword rays. The Phantom Sword Master was one of the 5 sword masters of the Tianjin sect. These 5 sword masters were the real experts of the Tianjin sect. They were the real trump cards of the Tianjin sect. They were definitely the higher-ups, and their status was even higher than that of many Tianjin sect masters. These 5 sword masters all inherited this invincible sword technique. For example, the inheritor of the Phantom Sword Technique was called the Phantom Sword Master. Although there were strong and weak sword masters in the past, each of them was one of the most powerful sword cultivators of their generation in the Tianjin sect. The difficulty of becoming one of the 5 sword masters was no less than that of becoming the sect master of the Tianjin sect. However, the Phantom Sword Technique in front of him had already reached greater mastery. Obviously, he was not a young man. Chu Fengmian looked over and saw the figure of a middle-aged man in his 40s among the thousands of sword rays. Suddenly, Chu Fengmian's eyes flashed with killing intent. Ing Qinzhua, I didn't expect you to still be alive. Ing Qinzhua. 10,000 years ago, this man was the Phantom Sword Master of the Tianjin sect. He also fought in the battle against the Sword Sect. Moreover, this man had participated in the assassination of the master of the Sword Sect. He was someone Chu Fengmian had to kill. Chu Fengmian didn't expect to meet him today. Celestial King Realm. Chu Fengmian looked at Ing Qinzhua and sighed in his heart. Now, he could see Ing Qinzhua's strength at a glance. It was unlike his previous life, when he could only guess. At that time, Chu Fengmian could only guess that Ing Qinzhua, the master of the Sword Sect, and the others were all experts above the Celestial Realm. However, he had no idea about their specific strength. Now, Chu Fengmian could finally see everything clearly. Chapter 2256. In Chu Fengmian's previous life, Ing Qinzhua was an invincible figure in the eyes of Chu Fengmian. In the Sword Dao sect, other than the master of the Sword Dao, no one else was a match for Ying Qianzhua. Even eldest senior brother Jian Ling, who was an immortal warrior, could not be compared to Ying Qianzhua, who was an immortal king. It could be said that the glory of the Sword Dao sect was the glory of the master of the Sword Dao alone. After the master of the Sword Dao was besieged and killed, the Sword Dao sect instantly collapsed. At that time, Chu Fengmian could not even see through Ying Qianzhua's true strength. But now, Chu Fengmian was standing here. He could see through Ying Qianzhua's true strength at a glance. This was strength. Chu Fengmian's strength had long surpassed everyone in the Sword Dao sect, except for the master of the Sword Dao. He is only an immortal king. As expected, the death of master is not that simple. However, the moment Chu Fengmian saw Ying Qianzhua's true strength, he knew that the death of the master of the Sword Dao in his previous life was not that simple. Although the Sword Dao sect was weak, the master of the Sword Dao was an invincible ruler. The ruler of the Sword Dao was more powerful than an immortal emperor. A sword master like Ying Qianzhua was only an immortal king. In front of the master of the Sword Dao, he was as weak as an ant. Even if there were 10,000 or even 100,000 Ying Qianzhua together, they would not be able to kill the master of the Sword Dao. The real person who besieged the master of the Sword Dao was definitely someone else. Even if it was a besiegement, the person who could kill the master of the Sword Dao was definitely an invincible immortal emperor. These people were Chu Fengmian's true enemies. Sooner or later, Chu Fengmian would find out the identity of these people. However, this Ying Qianzhua in front of him did indeed participate in the besiegement of the master of the Sword Dao. Later on, he even attacked the Sword Dao sect and killed countless Sword Dao disciples. This person was also someone that Chu Fengmian must kill. The moment Chu Fengmian saw Ying Qianzhua, the murderous intent in his eyes erupted uncontrollably. Ever since he was reborn, he had not felt this way for a long time. Now that he saw Ying Qianzhua, the killing intent in his heart was ignited once again. While Chu Fengmian was sizing up Ying Qianzhua was also sizing up Chu Fengmian. Although countless geniuses had been born in the 9 zones due to the upheaval, Chu Fengmian was the one who had stirred up the most storms. As a half-step celestial, Chu Fengmian had killed an immortal general and obtained the Upper Sword Execution Order diagram. Then, he had obtained the Upper Sword Sect's inheritance and also inherited the Sword Dao Sect's inheritance. Now, Chu Fengmian could even kill an immortal marquis. However, each and every one of these events could be said to be world-shaking. And now, they all fell on Chu Fengmian alone. This was simply a legend, a peerless genius described in myths and legends. In the face of such rumors, Ying Qianzhua was sizing up Chu Fengmian curiously. However, when he heard Chu Fengmian call out his name, Ying Qianzhua was stunned and his eyes flashed with surprise. After the battle with the Sword Dao sect, he had not fought for a full 10,000 years. Not to mention the 9 zones, even in the Sword Dao sect at most, people only knew that there was a phantom sword master in the Tianjian sect. They did not know the name Ying Qianzhua. Ying Qianzhua stared at Chu Fengmian and said with a ferocious expression, "You actually know where I came from? It seems that you did not just obtain the Sword Dao sect's inheritance. Boy, who are you?" "Ying Qianzhua, since you are also here, you will be buried with these guys." Chu Fengmian acted as if he did not hear Ying Qianzhua's words. His eyes were extremely cold, and his killing intent suddenly exploded. Chu Fengmian's killing intent soared to the sky. This killing intent could even affect a celestial realm expert. Their state of mind would change, and they would become a monster that only knew how to kill. The killing intent in Chu Fengmian's heart grew stronger as he became stronger. It was just that he had been hiding it all this time. The moment he saw Ying Qianzhua, Chu Fengmian no longer needed to suppress the killing intent in his heart. Revenge for the Sword Dao sect. Revenge for the Sword Dao sect's master. It would start with Ying Qianzhua. Boom! The soaring sword intent condensed on Chu Fengmian's 2 swords. Suddenly, the sword light in Chu Fengmian's hands flashed, and he suddenly slashed towards Ying Qianzhua. The soaring, killing intent condensed on the sword edge and turned into a sword chi that was tens of thousands of feet long. It contained the pure, killing intent. The killing sword art. Among the tens of thousands of sword arts, the killing sword art was not a mysterious sword art. However, the stronger the killing intent, the more power of the killing sword art could be unleashed. Now, under the enhancement of the monstrous killing intent in Chu Fengmian's heart, the killing sword art that he displayed was not inferior to the immortal emperor's sword art like the yin-yang sword codex. The blood light sword of the sky. A sword light with killing intent was aimed at Ying Qianzhua. The other killing intent was aimed at the northern sword immortal, the human demon supreme lord, and the battle demon supreme lord. Today, Chu Fengmian did not intend to let any of them go. What a strong, killing intent. You are indeed someone who experienced that battle. Ying Qianzhua saw the killing intent on Chu Fengmian's body, and his eyes became more and more serious. This kind of killing intent could only be possessed by someone who really experienced that battle. So what if the killing intent is strong? You're just a kid who is half a step into the celestial realm. Ying Qianzhua sneered and suddenly came in front of the northern sword immortal, protecting him behind his back. When he saw the two sword lights that were filled with killing intent slashing towards him, he abruptly drew his sword and slashed out. The moment he drew his sword, it split into tens of thousands, making it impossible for others to see it clearly. However, these tens of thousands of sword lights were all pointing towards one direction, between the void and the reality. Every sword shadow that had split into tens of thousands of sword lights contained the full power of tens of thousands of sword lights. The power that erupted from this sword strike was terrifying. Ying Qianzhua was originally an invincible expert at the peak of the Immortal King realm. He had also inherited one of the most mysterious sword arts of the Tianjian sect. After comprehending it for tens of thousands of years, his phantom sword art had already reached the pinnacle. Now, when he made his move, he forcibly blocked the two sword lights with killing intent in midair. The two completely different sword intents collided in midair. Chu Fengmian's killing sword art could not advance a single step, as expected of the phantom sword master. Your strength is indeed not to be underestimated. Chu Fengmian sneered. Unfortunately, today, you will die without a doubt. The three guys behind you will also die. As he spoke, the sword in Chu Fengmian's hand moved again. This time, the power of stars condensed on his sword and shone brightly. In the depths of the void, stars appeared. The power of stars condensed on Chu Fengmian's two swords. Jiuxian, the power of stars condensed on the two swords and suddenly poured down along with Chu Fengmian's sword. Chapter 2257. Voracious Wolf. Giant Door. Lutsuan. Tianji. 7 kills. Tualuo. Army Destroyer. The 7 forms of the 9 mystic immortal art slashed down at the same time. While he was comprehending swordsmanship in the sword sect, Chu Fengmian had also comprehended the last move of the 7 moves of the 9 profound immortal art, the Army Destroyer. Although the 9 mystic immortal art was created by the 9 mystic celestial venerate, its true power surpassed most immortal emperor immortal arts. The power of the stars condensed and gathered on the 2 swords in Chu Fengmian's hands. Suddenly, he slashed out with sword qi, and the power of the stars poured down like a vast ocean. Each of the stars contained supreme sword intent. Now, the 9 mystic immortal art had been completely integrated into the 9-realm sword technique by Chu Fengmian. The boundless sea of stars shrouded Ying Qianzhua, the human demon supremacy, the battle demon supremacy, and the northern sword immortal. In the sea of stars, there were countless swords slashing down at every moment. Ying Qianzhua's immortal energy burst out and shrouded the northern sword immortal and the others, blocking the thousands of swords in the sea of stars. The northern sword immortal was one of the famous patriarchs of the Tianjian sect. In the past tens of thousands of years, the number of patriarchs in the Tianjian sect was few and far between. Ying Qianzhua naturally could not sit idly by and watch the northern sword immortal be killed by Chu Fengmian. However, even if Ying Qianzhua went all out, his immortal energy could only shroud everyone and protect them. He could not divert any power to counterattack. I'd like to see how long you can hold on. Chu Fengmian's eyes were cold. The power in his body was almost endless. He had just used all his strength to unleash the power of the stars and the 9 mystic sword technique. In the next moment, another wave of power erupted from Chu Fengmian's sword. 3 suns blazing sword. Inside Chu Fengmian's body, the power of the divine body of ice and fire suddenly burst out. The pure young heavenly fire condensed on the tip of his sword. As Chu Fengmian's sword suddenly slashed down, the pure young heavenly fire turned into a sword light that was tens of thousands of feet long, aiming directly at enchantment. After the fire was gone, the next thing to appear was the wind. 4 directions, hurricane sword. The second move of the first sword art, 4 directions hurricane sword, slashed down at the same time, and a hurricane poured down from the sky. At this moment, the third sword was also condensing. 6 directions mysterious water sword. Out of nowhere, the water vapor condensed into a monstrous wave. 3 swords were unleashed simultaneously. The 3 moves of the first sword technique could be said to be Chu Fengmian's 3 most powerful moves apart from the 9 regions sword technique that he had created himself. Originally, Chu Fengmian had to pause for a short while to recover his strength every time he used the 3 swords. After all, these 3 swords were the immortal Emperor sword arts, and they were invincible sword arts that were ranked among the top 10 ancient celestial immortal arts. They were very powerful, and they consumed a lot of energy. But now, as Chu Fengmian's strength became stronger and stronger, he was able to use all 3 swords in an instant. The first sword Emperor's sword techniques had the power to complement each other. Now that Chu Fengmian had activated the power of the 3 swords at the same time, the power of the 3 swords was much more terrifying than the power of the 3 sword alone. Damn it, this is the first sword art. The legendary first sword art that was ranked among the top 10 ancient celestial immortal arts. How did this kid get such a sword art? Even the Sword Dao sect doesn't have such a sword art. Where did he get it? Looking at the power of the 3 swords that Chu Fengmian had unleashed, Ying Qianzuo's face changed drastically. The power of the 3 swords, 1 fire, 1 wind, and 1 water, made him recognize the origin of the 3 swords at a glance. Suddenly, his face turned extremely ugly. As soon as the 3 swords landed on him, his immortal force shattered into pieces as he was unable to resist the attack. Ying Qianzuo's immortal energy shattered. The human demon supremacy, battle demon supremacy, northern sword immortal, and the others who were under Ying Qianzuo's protection were all sent flying. They fell into the Star Ocean and were instantly killed by the thousands of swords. The human demon supremacy was the first to be sent flying. His body fell into the Star Ocean and was instantly slashed by the thousands of swords. Following a miserable scream, the human demon supremacy's body was instantly shattered. His blood essence that filled the sky was directly devoured by a force in the Star Ocean. He died on the spot. After demonization, the human demon supremacy's strength was comparable to the immortal king realm. Just like that, he died in the Star Ocean. He was only the first. After killing the human demon supremacy, the thousands of swords slashed towards the battle demon supremacy. Although the battle demon supremacy's body had been tempered and was incomparably tough, ordinary injuries could be instantly healed. However, the thousands of swords slashed his body. No matter how strong the battle demon supremacy's recovery ability was, he couldn't recover. Under the thousands of swords, his body was forcibly torn apart. His blood essence was devoured by the sky-devouring secret technique and turned into Chu Fengmian's power. "Sword Master, save me!" Northern Sword Daoist shouted loudly. He was also trapped in the Star Ocean. There was no hope for him to get out of it. He didn't want to die like the human demon supremacy and battle demon supremacy. His only hope now was the phantom sword immortal, Ying Qianzuo. Shadow sword, evil slaying. Ying Qianzuo's eyes were incomparably cold. His figure flashed. After escaping from the Star Ocean, he saw a northern sword immortal. Suddenly, 7 spiritual swords appeared behind his back. The 7 spiritual swords were all immortal items. When the 7 swords flew out, they formed a sword formation and flew to Taoist North Sword's side to protect him. You still dare to divert your attention to save others at this time? However, the moment Ng Qianzua's 7 spiritual swords flew out, Chu Fengmian's figure suddenly rushed in front of Ng Qianzua. The sword in his hand slashed down fiercely at Ng Qianzua. Chu Fengmian's speed was so fast that even Ng Qianzua couldn't see it clearly. In this void, Chu Fengmian could easily travel through space. His speed was even faster than a true Immortal King expert. The moment the sword slashed down, a dragon roar resounded. The comprehension of the 9 moves of primogeniture was condensed in this sword. It was aimed at Ng Qianzua and slashed down. In an instant, Ng Qianzua felt a great sense of danger. Even though Ng Qianzua was an immortal king, he couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. His eyes were cold. Suddenly, he made a prompt decision and retracted the sword array formed by the 7 spiritual swords. Come. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2258. The moment Ng Qianzua sensed the danger, he immediately withdrew the 7 spiritual swords and formed a sword array in front of him, blocking Chu Fengmian's sword. As a result, the Northern Sword Immortal lost all protection and fell into the sea of stars, drowning in it. No! The Northern Sword Immortal screamed as his body was mercilessly torn apart by thousands of swords. All of his essence and blood poured into Chu Fengmian's body and turned into his power. They're dead. It's your turn now. The Human Demon Sovereign, the War Demon Sovereign, and the Northern Sword Immortal had all fallen. Now, only Ng Qianzua was left. When Ng Qianzua was stared at by Chu Fengmian, he shuddered. How long are you guys going to wait? If this brat doesn't die today, don't think you'll have an easy time. Suddenly, Ng Qianzua roared, his voice resounding in the void. Ng Qianzua, as an immortal king, you can't even deal with this brat? I really don't want to be an immortal king like a trash like you. Just as Ng Qianzua roared, a cold voice suddenly sounded. The surrounding space was torn apart by a force, and a figure walked out from it. It was a white-haired old man, but he looked very young. He had white hair and a crane-like complexion. He was wearing a long robe that contained an ancient aura. He was playing with a jade bead in his hand, spinning it in his hand. In the jade bead, some ancient scenes appeared. There were giant beasts that were hundreds of feet tall and giant birds that could cover the sky with their wings. They were all ancient wild beasts. Desolate ancient bead. The moment Chu Fengmian saw the jade bead, his eyes turned cold. He recognized the origin of the jade bead. It was the desolate ancient bead, one of the 4 desolate treasures of the desolate ancient sect. The 4 desolate treasures were said to be the sect's most powerful spiritual weapons that have been passed down since the founding of the desolate ancient sect. Each of them contained an incomparably terrifying power that could communicate with the desolate ancient sect. In the hands of an expert from the desolate ancient sect, it could unleash the power of a top-grade immortal artifact. This jade pearl was called the desolate ancient pearl. It was one of the 4 desolate treasures. Chu Fengmian had heard of the 4 desolate treasures 10,000 years ago. So, it's the 3rd supreme elder of the desolate ancient sect. Chu Fengmian looked at the old man with white hair and crane-like complexion. There was a hint of familiarity in his eyes as he recognized the origin of the old man. The 3rd supreme elder of the desolate ancient sect. Within the barren ancient sect, the supreme elders were the most powerful. The barren ancient sect's cultivation techniques were extremely strange. They relied on their mastery of the barren ancient Tao. The longer they cultivated, the stronger they would become. Therefore, the group of old men in the barren ancient sect were the strongest in the barren ancient sect. As for the 3rd supreme elder, he was one of the strongest supreme elders in the barren ancient sect. Other than the mysterious 1st supreme elder, the 3rd supreme elder was the strongest person in the desolate ancient sect. In the battle against the Lord of the Sword Tao, the 3rd prime elder had joined the battle as well. You recognize me? The old man with white hair and crane-like complexion stared at Chu Fengmian coldly. It might have been a coincidence that Chu Fengmian had called out Ng Qianzua's name. However, if even the old man could recognize his identity, then Chu Fengmian was definitely someone from 10,000 years ago. They had all been injured in the battle against the Lord of the Sword Tao. They had not been active in the 9 regions for 10,000 years. The younger generation of martial artists and demon gods in the 9 regions would not be able to recognize their origins. Chu Fengyan could easily recognize their origins. The only possibility was that Chu Fengyan was someone from 10,000 years ago and had also experienced that battle. The Tianjin sect, the Desolate Ancient sect, and the Six-Path Demon sect are all here. There's no need for the rest to hide. Or do you want me to find you one by one? Chu Fengyan did not pay attention to the old man. Instead, he looked around him. His gaze swept across the area, and he knew that the white-haired old man was not the only one who was hiding in the surroundings. Humph! As soon as Chu Fengyan finished speaking, 2 more figures appeared. They were both middle-aged men and were not as strong as the old man. They were on par with the Northern Sword Immortal. The 2 of them were also from the Desolate Ancient sect. They appeared and stood respectfully behind the white-haired old man. Huang Yuan, Bai Mu. Chu Fengyan muttered to himself. These 2 were the most talented geniuses in the Desolate Ancient sect 10,000 years ago. After 10,000 years, they had also stepped into the immortal general realm and became giants in the Desolate Ancient sect. When they appeared, the space was torn apart again. This time, 2 burly men walked out of the void. They were several times taller than ordinary martial artists and could be called giants. 7-colored light emerged from their backs. This 7-colored light was not a type of technique. Instead, it was something that appeared naturally. Saint Monarch Glass Body, great success. This 7-colored light was called the Glass Light. It was formed naturally when one cultivated the Saint Monarch Glass Body, the strongest body refining technique of the Saint Monarch sect, to great success. The physical strength of a great success Saint Monarch Glass Body was comparable to that of an immortal general realm martial artist or a demon immortal. It was even close to the immortal king realm. There were only a few experts in the Saint Monarch sect who could cultivate the Saint Monarch Glass Body to great success. Vice Sect Master Qian Yun, 8th Battle Saint. Chu Fengyan recognized the 2 men at a glance. Those who could step into the immortal general realm were almost all people from 10,000 years ago. There were 2 people from the Sage Monarch sect. Qian Yun had been the vice sect leader of the Sage Monarch sect 10,000 years ago. The other person was the 8th Battle Sage, who was known as the Sage Monarch sect. In the Saint Monarch sect, those who could become saints were all experts with invincible physical bodies. These 2 men were not the strongest in the Saint Monarch sect, but they were at the top. When the 2 of them appeared, they looked at Chu Fengyan. 8th Battle Saint could not help but talk to himself. It's indeed a little strange. The monstrous geniuses of the Sword Tao sect should have been killed. Where did this kid come from? He looked at Chu Fengyan with a hint of confusion. Although the Sword Tao sect was strong for a period of time, there were not many true disciples of the Sword Tao sect. They knew almost all of them. But looking at Chu Fengyan's face, they felt that he was a little unfamiliar. He did not look like anyone from the Sword Tao sect. But what Chu Fengyan knew could only be known by the official disciples of the Sword Tao sect. Come, Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2259. What's the point of wasting so much energy? Let's take this kid down and feed him some poison. He'll spill everything. It just so happens that I've recently refined a cauldron of purgatory poison pills. I can feed it to this kid. Suddenly, the surrounding space was torn apart again, and an old man in a black robe slowly walked out from it. The moment the old man in black robes appeared, a medicinal fragrance appeared in the surroundings. This medicinal fragrance was intoxicating and incomparably sweet. But the moment they smelled this medicinal fragrance, the expressions of everyone present changed abruptly. Many of them gathered their strength and formed a barrier, completely isolating themselves from this medicinal fragrance. They looked as if they were facing a great enemy. The old poison master is actually the chief poison master of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Why is this lunatic here too? Seeing this black-robed old man called the Old Poison Master, many people frowned. Even existences like Ying Qianzhua and the 8 Battle Saints looked at the Old Poison Master with unparalleled fear in their eyes. The Old Poison Master, the chief poison master of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. No one knew his real name. Even in Chu Fengmian's memory, this old man should have been known as the Old Poison Master 10,000 years ago. At that time, he was the chief poison master of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. The Valley of the Medicine Masters was known as the largest medicine sect among the 7 major sects. But in reality, the Valley of the Medicine Masters cultivated both alchemy and poison. Many disciples of the Valley of the Medicine Masters had cultivated many poison techniques. And this old poison master was undoubtedly the #1 expert among all the experts of the Valley of the Medicine Masters who had cultivated poison techniques. Even a bottle of the poison he had refined could destroy the life of an entire continent. The number of warriors and demon gods who had died to the poison refined by the old poison master was more than 10 billion. The blood stained on his hands was something that even the giants of the demonic path could not compare to. This old poison master's poison techniques had already reached a level of silence. Standing beside him, if one was slightly careless, one would be poisoned to death without knowing how. Therefore, even immortal kings like Ing Qianzhua and the 8 battle sages were extremely fearful of the old poison master. Fortunately, they also knew that the old poison master was not here to stop Chu Fengmian, but to deal with Chu Fengmian. He also wanted to get a share of the profits from Chu Fengmian. Although the Shang Sword sect was a sect that was famous for its sword Dao, there was also a force like the Pill Hall that controlled the medicine Dao. Among the countless immortal pill manuals on the signboard of the Pill Palace, there were also many poison pill concocting methods. This old poison master came here for these pill formulas, including the human demon supremacy and the battle demon supremacy, who had already died at Chu Fengmian's hands. 5 out of the 7 major sects had sent experts over. Moreover, almost all of those who came were patriarchs who had been hiding in various sections. They could be said to be the strongest group of people. Since the upheaval of the 9 domains, such a scene had never happened before. Today, they came from the depths of the void just for Chu Fengmian alone. However, it was not enough to gather so many experts just for the inheritance of the Shang Sword sect. The reason why so many of them came was because of Chu Fengmian's identity. Only those who were related to the Sword Dao sect could gather so many experts together. Looking at so many experts in front of him, Chu Fengmian's eyes did not show any signs of nervousness. Instead, he revealed a somewhat cold expression. He would have a battle with the 7 major sects sooner or later. It seemed like today was the day of the decisive battle. Ing Qianzhua, the 8 battle sages, and the others could be said to be the strongest experts in their respective sections. Today, if Chu Fengmian could kill all of them, it could be said that the strength of the 7 major sects would be weakened to the lowest point. The people of the Heavenly Pivot Hall and the Ancient Moon Valley are not here. Chu Fengmian's eyes swept across the void and suddenly sneered. No need to hide. Since you're here, show yourselves. As Chu Fengmian spoke, his eyes suddenly looked in a direction. That direction was originally an incomparably calm void. However, as Chu Fengmian spoke, a wave suddenly appeared in the void. Then, a figure slowly walked out of the void. What good kid. You can even see through my concealment. You're indeed an anomaly. It was a middle-aged man wearing a long robe with a crescent moon embroidered on it. His eyes were fixed on Chu Fengmian, as if he wanted to see through Chu Fengmian's background. With his strength, even an immortal king expert of the same realm would find it difficult to detect him when he was concealed. However, Chu Fengmian saw through his figure with a single glance. Crescent Moon Shakyamuni, it's really you this time. Everyone was very clear about the middle-aged man's identity. It could be said that the experts of the 7 major sects of the 9 regions had always been the same few. They were all very familiar with each other. Chu Fengmian was also clear about the identity of these people. However, to them, Chu Fengmian's identity was incomparably mysterious. You're all here. The more the better. Let's get rid of all of you together so that I don't have to look for you one by one. As more and more experts gathered, Chu Fengmian's eyes were filled with cold, killing intent. However, at this time, no one made a move. It was as if they were still waiting for others. At this moment, a voice resounded from the sky above everyone's head. Strange. Even the most dazzling disciples of the Sword Dao sect didn't have such heaven-defying talent. Where did this person come from? Another figure sounded. This time, it wasn't a human figure that appeared, but a ray of starlight that descended from the sky. This ray of starlight contained specks of stars, forming a galaxy. The voice was transmitted from this galaxy. The people of Alpha Hall are still as mysterious as before. They're actually using a secret technique at this time. Seeing this galaxy, many people snorted in disdain. This galaxy was a secret technique, a great array. The specks of stars in it represented the eye of the array. A Alpha Hall disciple and a total of 3,000 Alpha Hall disciples used their full strength to activate the secret technique to form this galaxy. This galaxy condensed above Chu Fengmian's head, as if it had a pair of eyes and was sizing up Chu Fengmian. The experts of the 7 major sects had officially gathered. Except for the 2 from the 6 Paths Demon sect who were killed by Chu Fengmian, the remaining experts of the 6 major sects were all present. Very good. You're finally here. Today, it's time to settle the scores from 10,000 years ago. Chu Fengmian's gaze swept across the crowd. His eyes were filled with blood-red, killing intent. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2260. What an arrogant tone. Brat, do you think you can fight against us all by yourself? The 8 battle saints snorted coldly when they heard Chu Fengmian's words. This time, the experts of the 7 major sects had gathered to deal with Chu Fengmian alone. Even the 8 battle saints would be in great danger if they were involved, let alone Chu Fengmian. Even if Chu Fengmian's performance was monstrous, he was only half a step away from the celestial realm. If it were anyone else, the 8 battle saints wouldn't even look at them in the eye. Moreover, this time, it could be said that all the experts of the 7 major sects had come out. Even if Chu Fengmian had any trump cards or helpers, they were not afraid at all. In the entire 9 regions, and even in the entire extraterritorial starry sky, there were few forces that could contend with them. Contend? No. Today, none of you will leave here alive. I will use your blood as a sacrifice to my master and the Swordway sect. Chu Fengmian listened to the 8 battle saints and said calmly. The arrogance in his words made many people not far away look askance. The 7 major sects had such a big lineup this time, and so many experts had come out one after another. Everyone in the 9 regions knew about it. Even the experts who were not interested in the Swordway sect's inheritance had come to the depths of the void. They didn't come for the Swordway sect's inheritance, but to witness this grand event. It could be said that since the fall of the Swordway sect and the fall of the Swordway sect 10,000 years ago, this was the most intense battle in the past 10,000 years. It was a lucky thing to be able to witness such a battle. Among the onlookers, many people were shocked when they heard Chu Fengmian's words. The arrogance in his words was simply unprecedented. The so-called arrogant geniuses of the 9 regions were nothing compared to Chu Fengmian. Even the most arrogant geniuses would be respectful when facing the 8 battle saints. The 8 battle saints, in Qianzhua, were existences that could shake the 9 regions with a stomp of their feet. Now, Chu Fengmian's words meant that he wanted to kill all of them here. What exactly is this person relying on? Some onlookers stared at Chu Fengmian. They didn't understand why Chu Fengmian dared to be so arrogant. Could it be that this person is backed by a sacred sect? Someone made a guess. Impossible. Even if he has a sacred region sect behind him, it's impossible for him to be so arrogant. The passageway to the 9 domains is completely closed. Although there are experts from the 3 sacred regions who can come to the 9 domains, they are restricted by the rules. At most, there are a few juniors who can come here. It's impossible for them to compete with the 8 battle saints. An old and knowledgeable Yao god shook his head and said, "Looks like this kid knows that he's in a hopeless situation today, so he's putting up a strong front. Then this kid is dead for sure. Can't we find a chance to try and get some treasures from him?" Another warrior said. His eyes were burning with greed. Chu Fengmian was able to obtain the inheritance of Sword Dao sect and Upper Sword sect. He must have a lot of treasures on him. Especially Chu Fengmian, who is only a half-step celestial being, was able to kill an immortal marquee expert. This kind of strength was shocking and unique. The treasures on Chu Fengmian's body were a great opportunity for them. Among these onlookers, there were some who wanted to fish in troubled waters and get some benefits from Chu Fengmian. As long as the 7 great sects are willing to take action, this man is dead for sure. However, the experts of the 7 great sects have some scruples now. This man has inherited the inheritance of the Sword Dao sect and the Upper Sword sect. He might have some trump cards up his sleeves. He was able to contend against Ing Qianzhua before, but once he goes all out, he might be able to kill a few experts here. The Yao God sneered and said, Human Demon Lord, Battle Demon Lord, and Northern Sword Immortal were all killed by him. If you want to die, go ahead. Although there were some Immortal Marquee experts among the onlookers, they were not worth mentioning in front of Chu Fengmian. After all, even Human Demon Lord, Northern Sword Immortal, and the others were killed by Chu Fengmian. These people were all at the peak of Immortal Marquee. Their strength was close to the Immortal King realm when they activated their secret techniques. They were all killed by Chu Fengmian. These ordinary Immortal Marquises were not comparable to Northern Sword Immortal. Hearing the Yao God's words, many onlookers gave up on the idea in their hearts. Although the treasures on Chu Fengmian were tempting, they were not willing to take such a big risk. Of course, not everyone retreated in the face of difficulties. Those who were able to become experts were those who had gone through life and death battles. They had obtained opportunities amidst danger. Everyone knew the logic of seeking riches and honor amidst danger. They were all staring at Chu Fengmian. They were also prepared to take action at the most dangerous moment to snatch some of the treasures. The 7 major sects were not the only ones who had their eyes on Chu Fengmian. The other forces of the 9 domains, the extraterritorial starry sky, and even the martial artists and Yao gods of the 3 sacred domains were hiding in the surroundings, watching Chu Fengmian. As long as Chu Fengmian was in danger, they would not hesitate to pounce on him, kill him, and seize his treasures. What? No one is taking the initiative to attack. None of the immortal kings of the 7 major sects dares to deal with a puny half-step celestial being. Chu Fengmian glanced around, his eyes flashing with disdain. The more arrogant Chu Fengmian was, the more fearful the experts of the 7 major sects were in front of him. They did not understand what Chu Fengmian's trump card was. Humph, if you don't want to attack, I will. I want to see how powerful a mere half-step celestial being kid can be. A cold snort sounded, and a tall figure stepped out. It was the 8th battle saint from the Sage Monarch sect. He was the first to step out, unable to bear Chu Fengmian's provocation. The 8th battle saint's body was several times bigger than Chu Fengmian's. Chu Fengmian stood in front of the 8th battle saint, as weak as a chicken. Seeing that the 8th battle saint chose to take the initiative to attack, the experts of the other 7 major sects did not make a move. Their eyes fell on the 8th battle saint and Chu Fengmian. They also wanted to use the 8th battle saint to test Chu Fengmian's trump card and see what Chu Fengmian was relying on. Chapter 2261. Die for me. The 8th war saint took a step forward, and the 7-colored light behind him became even more dazzling. He circulated the strength of his body, and with a loud bang, he gathered his strength on his fist and blasted it towards Chu Fengmian. Asterisk boom. Asterisk the moment the fist blasted out, the surrounding space trembled. Under this punch, the heavens and earth collapsed. A punch that purely relied on the strength of his body was close to the full strength of a peak immortal king. This was the strength of the Sage Monarch sect. They were a sect that focused purely on body refinement. The Sage Monarch sect relied on body refinement to become immortal kings. These 8 battle sages were considered freaks amongst immortal kings. So strong. When the spectators felt the power of this punch, they all sucked in a breath of cold air, and their hearts trembled. The power of this punch could kill any immortal marquis without a doubt. Experts like the 8 war saints hadn't fought for 10,000 years. Although the spectators had heard of his name, they didn't take it seriously. Now that they saw the 8 war saints in action, they finally understood the strength of such experts. The 7 major sects had destroyed the Sword Dao sect, and many of the treasures in the sect were divided among the 7 major sections. The 8 war saints had also obtained great benefits from that battle. The strength of his attack was several times stronger than 10,000 years ago. However, the Chu Fengmian of this life was no longer the weak Chu Jianbai of his previous life. Immortal. Facing this punch, Chu Fengmian didn't dodge it like what the spectators had expected. Instead, he met it head-on. At the same time, Chu Fengmian muttered in his heart. In Chu Fengmian's body, 129,600 crystals suddenly gathered together, forming a great array. A steady stream of energy poured into Chu Fengmian's body. Chu Fengmian also blasted out a punch. Strength against strength. Asterisk boom. Asterisk as the two fists collided. The fists of the 8 war saints stopped in midair. It was not as he had imagined, where they would destroy Chu Fengmian as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. Instead, the two forces were in a stalemate, with no clear winner or loser. This result was incomparably shocking to the 8 war saints. You can withstand my strength? The 8 battle saints stared fixedly at Chu Fengmian. Suddenly, their eyes flashed with astonishment. I'd like to see how many punches you can take. In an instant, the 8 war saints attacked again. They condensed their fists and bombarded Chu Fengmian with punches. Chu Fengmian didn't try to evade. Instead, he used his fists to meet the attacks head-on. The collision of fists was purely a collision of brute force. Under the repeated attacks, the 129,600 figures within Chu Fengmian's body began to crack and shatter. However, the moment the 129,600 immortal crystals started to shatter, a huge amount of golden essence blood rushed in and repaired the shattered immortal crystals. Chu Fengmian had killed the human demon sovereign, the northern sword enlightened master, and dozens of immortal generals and marquises. Their essence blood had been devoured by Chu Fengmian with a heaven-devouring secret art and stored in his body. Chu Fengmian's strength had reached a bottleneck. If he didn't leave the 9 regions to undergo the celestial tribulation, his strength wouldn't be able to grow any further. However, while his strength couldn't grow, his body was far from the limit. The strongest point of the immortal true body was its rebirth. Even if the immortal crystals were shattered, they could be reformed in an instant as long as there was a large amount of energy. Moreover, after devouring the golden essence blood, the reconstructed immortal crystals were even more powerful than before. Therefore, Chu Fengmian didn't dodge at all when facing the 8 war saints. He directly resisted with brute force. He wasn't afraid, even if his immortal crystals were shattered. The amount of golden essence blood he had obtained was enough to shatter and reconstruct all 129,600 immortal crystals in his body dozens of times. He didn't care about the golden essence blood that would be consumed several times. On the contrary, the power of the immortal crystals was getting stronger and stronger. This made Chu Fengmian very happy. However, Chu Fengmian didn't show it. He only displayed the strength of his body at the beginning and barely resisted the attacks of the 8 war saints. Chu Fengmian didn't want to waste such a good sparring partner. It's a stalemate. Even the 8 war saints can't kill this kid. Looking at the battle in the void, Ing Qianzhua, the white-haired elder, Qian Yun, and the others were all shocked. Especially Qian Yun, who came from the sage monarch sect like the 8 war saints. He naturally knew the strength of the 8 war saints. With the brute force of the 8 war saints, unless it was a martial artist or demon immortal who also stepped into the immortal king realm through the way of body refining. Even a martial artist like Ing Qianzhua, who is also an immortal king, would not be able to resist the 8 war saints' brute force. But now, although Chu Fengmian was at a disadvantage, he could faintly contend with the 8 war saints. This also meant that Chu Fengmian's body was almost at the level of an immortal king. Even Qian Yun, who cultivated the way of body refining, couldn't understand how Chu Fengmian could have a body comparable to an immortal king realm cultivator. I've seen a martial artist with the immortal true body. That martial artist was already in the immortal true body. Although he was powerful, it wasn't to this extent. The old poison master of the Medicine King sect also spoke slowly. Martial artists and demon immortals with the immortal true body were rare, but with his experience, he had seen them before. But Chu Fengmian's current physical body was much more powerful than that of the person he had seen before. The group of immortal kings present were all figures who had lived for tens of thousands of years and had seen a lot. But now, they couldn't understand how Chu Fengmian's physical body was so powerful. But they couldn't be blamed. They naturally couldn't imagine that Chu Fengmian had already reached the third level of the immortal true body. In fact, many people didn't know that the immortal true body was divided into levels. Even Chu Fengmian used to think that the immortal true body was only a level of physical body, a level of great success in the way of body refining. Only after Chu Fengmian had condensed the immortal true body did he know that there were strong and weak immortal true bodies. Most martial artists and demon immortals who had condensed the immortal true body had only condensed the first level. It was extremely rare for them to reach the second level. But Chu Fengmian had reached the third level. So even these immortal kings couldn't understand how powerful Chu Fengmian's physical body was. It doesn't matter if his physical body is strong or his recovery ability is strong. This person's physical body is broken, and each time he has to spend a lot of energy to recover. If this continues, he will be exhausted to death by the 8 war saints sooner or later. Everyone discussed for a while, but couldn't figure it out. They could only give up, but their expressions were still relaxed. First, set a small goal. For example, 1 second. Remember, book guest residence. Chapter 2262. No matter how strong Chu Fengmian's physical body was, he could only passively take a beating. His body had been destroyed time and time again, and it would take a lot of energy to reconstruct it. No matter how strong Chu Fengmian was, no matter how many pills he had to restore his strength, he would be exhausted to death one day. The 8 war saints burst out with their full strength, bombarding Chu Fengmian's body with their fists. Chu Fengmian stood there, blocking the attacks. There were several times when Chu Fengmian's body was about to be completely destroyed, but at this crucial moment, a burst of energy would suddenly erupt from Chu Fengmian's body and reconstruct his body. After a full 10 minutes, after a few times, the 8 war saints' eyes showed some impatience. I won't waste time with you. To be able to die under my all-out attack is also a kind of honor for you, right? Die for me. Before he could finish his sentence, the figure of the 8th battle sacred figure suddenly became illusionary. Following this, his figure split into 2, then 3. In the blink of an eye, there were 8 8th battle sacred figures. Every single one of these 8 battle saints looked like the real 8 battle saints. And the most terrifying thing was that the strength of these 8 war saints was exactly the same as the previous 8 war saints. What kind of secret technique is this? Are these clones? But how can clones have such terrifying strength? Seeing the 8 war saints suddenly turn into 8, many cultivators shouted in surprise. For example, cultivators and monster gods who had stepped into the Emperor realm and above all had the ability to create clones. This was not unfamiliar to everyone, but clones could only have about 10% of the strength of the original body. However, the 8 clones of the 8 battle saints all contained the full power of the 8 battle saints. This caused many people to be unable to understand how the 8 battle saints were able to accomplish this. War divine body. This is the innate divine body of the 8 war saints. Some people who knew the origin of the 8 war saints knew why they could have 8 clones. People with innate divine bodies and war divine bodies were born with 7 clones, and the strength of these 7 clones was exactly the same as the strength of the original body. Cultivators with war divine bodies were born stronger than ordinary people and could erupt with 8 times the strength at any time. Even among the countless innate divine bodies, the war divine body could be ranked in the top 20. Chu Fengmian was no stranger to this kind of war divine body. The Demon Emperor had a similar war divine body, but it was a divine body ranked higher than the war divine body of the 8 war saints, the Nirvana divine body. The Nirvana body of the war saints, and again, which was more terrifying than the 8 war saints' 7 clones. The name of the 8 war saints was famous because of his war divine physique. However, with the passage of time, not many people had seen the 8 war saints fight with their full strength. Many people had forgotten this point. The war, S's and an is, and seeing the war saints erupting with their full strength, the other experts of the 7 major sects discussed with each other. In their eyes, the battle was already over. The war saints' 7 clones attacked together with their original bodies. They condensed the wind of their fists and blasted at Chu Feng Mian. In an instant, they erupted with 8 times the strength of their original bodies and blasted down together, showing boundless killing intent. Die. The moment the fist came crashing down, the 8 battle saints all opened their mouths. Their voices seemed to have sealed Chu Fengmian's fate. Is that so? Chu Feng Mian's lips curled into a cold smile. Looking at the 8 battle sages attacking together, the aura on his body changed abruptly. Blood chi that soared to the heavens exploded outwards. In that instant, Chu Fengmian's aura became completely different. The 129,600 crystals in his body had already completely transformed. However, Chu Fengmian had been suppressing their power in order to prevent the 8 battle saints from detecting any abnormalities. At this moment, the power that was suppressed in the 129,600 beads was completely released. Endless blood chi soared to the sky, and this blood chi seemed to have dyed Chu Feng Mian blood red. In this soaring blood chi, there was an incomparably ancient power. This power seemed to have come from the most ancient expert of the immortal true body. It was ancient and powerful. His immortal true body had devoured a large amount of blood chi during the battle with the 8 war saints. Now, its strength had skyrocketed countless times. Boom! Countless eyes were fixed on Chu Fengmian the moment they sensed the surging blood chi. Even the immortal generals were somewhat shocked. The soaring blood chi was about to drown them. They couldn't imagine that Chu Fengmian could erupt with such terrifying power at this moment. The blood chi that soared to the sky shrouded Chu Feng Mian's body. Suddenly, Chu Feng Mian moved his body and took a step forward. He faced the war saints and suddenly threw out a punch. Boom! This punch was accompanied by the roar of a dragon. The rolling dragon's might, the ancient profound wail, and the power of devouring heaven were all added to this punch. This punch swept away everything in its path. The fist wind of the war saints was mercilessly crushed. Among the war saints, a few of the war saints had to bear such a huge force. Their bodies swelled up, and in the next moment they were shattered. Among the 7 incarnations of the war saints, 4 of them had to bear the huge force and exploded. Blood splattered everywhere. The blood essence that filled the sky was completely devoured by the devouring heaven force. The 8 battle saints possessed the great war divine body, and each of their clones possessed the same level of strength as their original body. With a single punch, 4 of the 8 battle saints' clones were instantly killed. This was almost equivalent to killing 4 immortal king experts in one go. Although the war saint had cultivated the great war divine body, the strength of any of his incarnations was slightly weaker than a true immortal king expert. However, 2 of his incarnations were almost comparable to a true immortal king expert. When the 4 incarnations attacked together, most of the immortal king experts could only push them away. They didn't dare to resist. But now, Chu Feng Mian defeated the war saints with a single punch. Among the 7 incarnations of the war saints, 4 of them were killed by Chu Feng Mian. The incarnations of the great war divine body were the same as the incarnations of the nirvana divine body. Once they died, there was no possibility of them being condensed again. Chapter 2263. It could be said that the power of Chu Fengmian's punch had crippled half of the 8 battle saints' strength. No matter how many opportunities the 8 battle saints obtained in the future, they would not be able to make up for the loss. What? The 8 battle saints were defeated? 4 incarnations were killed by a single punch? How is that possible? This is the great war divine physique, 8 times the battle strength. How could it be defeated? How did this kid's strength suddenly become so terrifying? Originally, Many of the experts present thought that once the 8 battle saints attacked with their full strength, it would be enough to determine the victory, and Chu Fengmian would undoubtedly die. But they never expected that the situation would be reversed in the blink of an eye. The 8 battle saints, who were brimming with confidence a moment ago, had actually become so miserable in an instant. The might of Chu Fengmian's punch had destroyed 4 of his incarnations. His remaining 3 incarnations and his original body had all suffered serious injuries. Now he was dripping with blood and in an incomparably miserable state. Defeating 8 battle saints with the strength of his physical body? Am I crazy? How could anyone do that? Qin Yun's mouth was wide open as he shouted loudly. Even he was almost scared to death when he saw this scene. This was the 8 battle saints who had the great war divine physique. Once the 7 incarnations of the 8 battle saints came out, they were almost invincible in a head-on confrontation. No one should be able to contend with them. But now, Chu Fengmian had defeated the 8 battle saints head-on. The countless essence blood of the 4 incarnations was instantly devoured by the sky-devouring secret technique and poured into Chu Fengmian's body. The essence blood of the 4 incarnations was almost equivalent to the essence blood of 4 true immortal kings. It was the first time Chu Fengmian had devoured the essence blood of an immortal king expert. As it poured into his body, Chu Fengmian immediately felt an incomparably enormous immortal power. Every immortal king expert possessed incredible strength. In the extraterritorial starry sky, the strongest expert in a second-grade starfield was only an immortal general, and the strongest was only an immortal marquis. An immortal king expert was an invincible existence that could rule hundreds or thousands of starfields. Even in the 3 great saint realms and the 9 domains of heaven, an immortal king was an important figure, an existence that could control a region. Immortal king. The 2 words immortal king represented the king of immortals. The immortal kings of the various sects of the 9 regions had all been nurtured over the course of 10,000 years. Chu Fengmian killed the 4 clones of the 8 war saints, which was equivalent to killing 4 true immortal kings. Their essence blood poured into Chu Fengmian's body and was instantly devoured by the 129,600 immortal crystals. In the battle with the 8 war saints, these 129,600 immortal crystals had been broken and reformed dozens of times. Every time they were reformed, the power contained within each immortal crystal was even more terrifying. Vaguely, Chu Fengmian's immortal true body transformed again and was about to enter the 4th level. The essence blood he had accumulated from killing Taoist North Sword, human demon sovereign, and the others had long been depleted. Now, these immortal crystals lacked the essence blood and immortal energy to devour. This time, after killing the 4 clones of the 8 war saints, their essence blood poured into Chu Fengmian's body. These immortal crystals thirsted for essence blood and immortal energy and began to devour it frantically. After devouring a large amount of essence blood, each immortal crystal began to swell. Suddenly, an inscription was engraved in the center of each immortal crystal. This inscription was formed after devouring more than 90% of the essence blood of the 4 clones of the 8 war saints. The moment this inscription was formed, Chu Fengmian felt that his strength had taken another step forward. His immortal true body had transformed again and reached the 4th level. This inscription contained an endless amount of power that continuously poured into Chu Fengmian's body. Chu Fengmian carefully observed this inscription and found that it seemed to be a diagram. Chu Fengmian had never seen this diagram before. Even after inheriting the Supreme Sword Sect's inheritance, the Sword Emperor crown's devouring power. In his memory, there was no record of this diagram. Could it be that this immortal true body is even older than the Supreme Sword Sect? Chu Fengmian flipped through the memories of the Sword Emperor crown, but found nothing. His eyes revealed some shock. The Supreme Sword Sect was already the most ancient sword sect. It was tyrannical for a period of time. In the era when the primordial era was shattered and the 9 regions were condensed, it became an invincible overlord. There is very little information about the origins of the immortal true body in the Supreme Sword Sect's inheritance. It was very likely that this immortal true body was even older than the Supreme Sword Sect. It was even older than the Supreme Sword Sect. That was the primordial era, the era when the 100 races dominated. The origin of the immortal true body might be much older than Chu Fengmian imagined. The power of this inscription has not reached its limit. It seems that it can still devour more essence blood to condense the inscription. Chu Fengmian's eyes flashed with a bit of heat. He felt that the power of this inscription had not reached its limit. As long as more inscriptions were condensed, Chu Fengmian's strength could still increase further. Chu Fengmian's current realm was restricted by the power of heaven and earth of the 9 regions. He could not descend the celestial tribulation and could only be trapped in the half-step celestial realm. Unless Chu Fengmian left the 9 regions, he could not go any further. Chu Fengmian did not have a solution. However, when the immortal true body transformed again and reached the 4th level of the immortal true body, the inscription condensed could actually increase Chu Fengmian's strength. The power emitted from the inscription alone increased Chu Fengmian's strength by about 30%. Given Chu Fengmian's current strength, this kind of increase was simply amazing. Moreover, the power of the inscription was far from simple. Chu Fengmian felt that he could control the power of the inscription and use the power contained in it at any time. I reached the 4th level of the immortal true body. Chu Fengmian felt a bit of joy in his eyes as he felt the new power. Since reaching the 3rd level of the immortal true body, Chu Fengmian had been looking for a way to break through to the 4th level, but the result was very little. Now, in the battle with the 8 war saints, Chu Fengmian directly reached the 4th level of the immortal true body. Fighting with the strong was indeed the fastest way to improve one's strength. More importantly, Chu Fengmian killed 4 incarnations of the 8 war saints and obtained the essence blood of 4 immortal kings. That was why he condensed the inscription with the essence blood, which was precisely the transformation of the immortal true body. Chapter 2264. Moreover, the inscription was far from reaching its limit. The blood essence of experts above the immortal lord level could be used to form inscriptions. As long as Chu Fengmian killed more experts and obtained their blood essence, his strength could be further improved. Chu Fengmian looked in the direction of the 8 battle saints. Although Chu Fengmian had killed 4 incarnations of the 8 battle saints, he still had 3 incarnations left. These 3 incarnations all contained blood essence that was comparable to an immortal king. After killing these 3 incarnations, Chu Fengmian could use the blood essence within them to condense more inscriptions. This time, Chu Fengmian had no intention of letting anyone from the 7 major sects go. The moment he looked at the 8 battle saints, killing intent surged in his eyes. Suddenly, Chu Fengmian made his move. His figure flickered as he chased after the 8 battle saints. This was the true body of the 8th war saint. His remaining 3 avatars had also suffered significant injuries. Seeing Chu Fengmian chasing after them, the 8 battle saints' expression changed, and he shouted loudly, "Why aren't you making your move?" Hearing the shout of the 8 battle saints, many experts of the 7 major sects woke up from their daze. The scene just now had shocked them too much. Even the immortal kings were stunned for a moment. After hearing the shout of the 8 battle saints, they came back to their senses. Suddenly, several figures attacked, bursting out several immortal techniques and bombarding Chu Fengmian. They would not sit idly by and watch the 8 battle saints be killed by Chu Fengmian. In an instant, Ying Qianzhua, Qian Yun, and the white-haired old man all attacked together, performing countless immortal techniques to block Chu Fengmian's path. Now, they could no longer care about the dignity of immortal kings and attack together. The moment the 3 immortal kings attacked, the immortal techniques they burst out were the killing moves that they had accumulated for a long time. The 3 of them joined forces, planning to kill Chu Fengmian in one blow. Good timing. Seeing the 3 of them joining hands, Chu Fengmian's face didn't show any signs of nervousness or fear. Instead, he revealed a bit of excitement. 2 spiritual swords condensed in his hands. Suddenly, He slashed out with his sword. Boom! 2 streaks of sword light slashed down. The power contained in this sword light was much more terrifying than before. After attaining the 4th level of the immortal true body, Chu Fengmian's strength was further enhanced. The power of his swordsmanship was far greater than before. These 2 sword arts were supreme sword arts of the High Sword School. They were immortal emperor sword arts. Chu Fengmian's sword light was enough to destroy continent. As the 2 sword lights slammed down, the countless immortal arts unleashed by the 3 immortal kings were all shattered by the sword lights. In the next moment, the 2 sword lights were aimed directly at Ing Qianzhua and the other 2. This brat's strength has grown even stronger. How is this possible? How can his strength improve so quickly in such a short period of time? The expressions of Ing Qianzhua, Qin Yun, and the others changed drastically when they saw the 2 sword lights slashing towards them. They could see that the power that Chu Fengmian had unleashed this time was much stronger than when he had faced the 8 battle saints. In such a short period of time, Chu Fengmian's strength had improved further, which was somewhat unimaginable to them. For experts at their level, they might not be able to improve their strength even if they cultivated in seclusion for thousands or even tens of thousands of years. However, Chu Fengmian was getting stronger almost every moment. This brat must have some kind of secret technique. We can't delay any longer. Ing Qianzhua looked at Chu Fengmian with fear in his eyes. He could sense that Chu Fengmian's strength would become even more terrifying with each passing minute. Qin Yun and the white-haired elder had the same idea as Ing Qianzhua. Buzz! Thousands of phantoms appeared beside Ing Qianzhua. Each of these phantoms looked like the real Ing Qianzhua, but they also looked like pure phantoms. It was hard to tell whether they were real or fake. At the moment when these thousands of phantoms appeared, the spiritual sword in Ing Qianzhua's hand suddenly moved. He slashed down with his sword. These thousands of phantoms all gathered on the tip of his sword. In an instant, it was as if thousands of swords were slashing down at the same time. Thousand-edge phantom sword. The strongest sword of the phantom sword technique slashed down with a loud bang. Ing Qianzhua originally wanted to capture Chu Fengmian alive. He was very curious about Chu Fengmian's secrets. But now, after Chu Fengmian defeated the 8 battle saints and became even stronger, he completely gave up on this idea. Compared to Chu Fengmian's secrets, Chu Fengmian himself was the most terrifying. He did not want to let Chu Fengmian continue to grow. So, he suddenly used his killer move. The strongest sword of the phantom sword technique burst out and slashed down at Chu Fengmian. Not only Ing Qianzhua, but Qin Yun and the white-haired elder also did the same. Qin Yun's body became incomparably huge. He reached a height of 100 meters and became the giant in the center of the battlefield. His body showed a kind of glazed color. The glazed light gathered on his fist. Then he suddenly punched out. At this moment, Qin Yun also used all his trump cards and displayed his most powerful technique. The white-haired elder did the same. Behind him, an ancient door opened. What emerged from it was the scene of the ancient Baron's continent hundreds of millions of years ago. Inside this ancient door, as the white-haired youth extended his hand and clawed, a giant beast that was 10,000 feet in size was caught in his hand. This 1,000 feet long giant beast had the shape of a tiger, but its entire body was blood red. It contained an enormous amount of blood qi, and within the blood qi, there was also an endless amount of murderous intent. When a giant beast was pulled out of the ancient door by the white-haired elder, many demon gods were shocked. Some of them recognized the giant beast. Blood Ghost Beast. It's a terrifying wild beast formed from the blood essence of a demon god. This is a blood ghost beast that is close to the immortal king realm. It's said that the founder of the ancient barons sect had a great connection with the supreme giant of the ancient barons era. He left a mark in the ancient barons era that could open the door and borrow the power of the wild beasts of the ancient barons era. This rumor is actually true. Opening the door of the ancient barons era and borrowing the power of the living beings from hundreds of millions of years ago was simply a myth. Although there had always been such a rumor, not many people believed it. However, when they saw the white-haired elder in action, They realized that the rumor was actually true. Chapter 2265. Among the 7 major sects, the most unfathomable was the desolate ancient sect. This 1,000-meter-long blood ghost was directly pulled out of the desolate ancient gate by the white-haired old man, unable to resist at all. The founder of the desolate ancient sect had left his mark on the desolate ancient overlord. Any desolate beast that was summoned could not resist. Go! The white-haired elder ordered after the 1,000-foot-long blood ghost was pulled out, pointing at Chu Fengmian. The 1,000-foot-long blood ghost roared, burning its blood essence and pouncing at Chu Fengmian. The 1,000-foot-long blood ghost was a terrifying, desolate beast born from powerful blood essence and chaotic energy of the desolate ancient era. Burning its blood essence was a desperate move. The moment it attacked, it was comparable to a true immortal king realm expert. It was willing to give up its life and go all out. Even an immortal monarch would have to be careful in the face of an immortal king. Otherwise, he might be killed. Ying Qianzhua, Qian Yun, and the white-haired old man all brought out their trump cards and bombarded Chu Fengmian with attacks. On the other side, Chu Fengmian was also controlling his sword. A dazzling purple sword light soared into the sky, leaving behind purple crystals wherever it passed. The amethyst sword art. Among all the sword arts Chu Fengmian had obtained from the Shang Sword Sect's library, the amethyst sword art was the one that improved Chu Fengmian the most. It was also the sword art that Chu Fengmian had studied the most. The amethyst sword art was no longer the amethyst sword art created by the amethyst immortal venerable. It now contained Chu Fengmian's sword Dao and his understanding of the sword Dao from the ancient books. The power of a slash was above that of an immortal emperor's immortal technique. At this moment, Chu Fengmian's body emitted a faint purple light. The power of the amethyst golem race was added to Chu Fengmian's body, and he slashed out with the sword. Boom! The purple sword light collided with the combined power of Ying Qianzhua, Qian Yun, and the white-haired elder. The moment it collided, the purple sword light shattered. The 3 immortal kings were now using their strongest killing moves. Even though Chu Fengmian had stepped into the 4th level of the immortal true body and his strength had improved by leaps and bounds, he still couldn't defeat them. The moment the purple sword light was shattered, Chu Fengmian suffered a tremendous force. His body was pushed back for dozens of miles. The tyrannical force almost caused Chu Fengmian's body to explode. If it was any other immortal king expert, they would have been directly torn apart by that terrifying force just now. Chu Fengmian's immortal true body had transformed into the 4th level of immortal true body. The immortal true body's transformation had an immortal body's immortal body. Overall, each immortal crystal had become much sturdier. It also contained an extremely powerful recovery power. Even after withstanding such a huge force, it still couldn't kill Chu Fengmian. He didn't die. When Ying Qianzhua, Qian Yun, and the white-haired old man saw that Chu Fengmian was still able to stabilize his body despite being forced back, their eyes were filled with astonishment. The 3 of them had unleashed their full strength and used all their trump cards. However, they had only managed to push Chu Fengmian back temporarily. They hadn't managed to kill Chu Fengmian. They hadn't even managed to destroy Chu Fengmian's flesh. Obviously, they were not satisfied with the result. The 3 immortal kings joined forces to deal with a warrior who was half a step away from the celestial realm. If this news were to spread, they would be the laughingstock for thousands of years. Kill. Don't give this kid a chance to breathe. In an instant, Ying Qianzhua, Qian Yun, and the white-haired old man acted once more. They wanted to kill Chu Fengmian, ruthlessly exterminating him, not allowing him to devour anything. A little chance to breathe. The sword light, the fist wind, and the blood ghost beast all rushed toward Chu Fengmian. You want to kill me? When Chu Fengmian saw the 3 figures rushing over, his eyes revealed a bit of cold, killing intent. Just now was just a warm-up. Now it's the official start. You guys are the first to die under this move. It's your honor. As Chu Fengmian spoke, he suddenly took a step forward. Facing Ying Qianzhua and the other 2, Chu Fengmian faced them head-on again. Is Chu Fengmian crazy? Does he really think he can fight 3 immortal kings head-on? At this time, instead of avoiding the attack, he is taking the initiative to fight head-on. Is he courting death? Seeing Chu Fengmian's action, many of the onlookers did not understand what Chu Fengmian was thinking. Ying, Qianzhua, and the other 2 were now at the peak of their strength. They were going to use all their strength to kill Chu Fengmian. If it was anyone else, they would have thought to avoid the brunt of this attack. But Chu Fengmian exceeded everyone's expectations. He took the initiative to meet the attack again. Seeing that the killing moves of the 3 immortal kings were about to bombard Chu Fengmian's body. Under countless shocked gazes, a wave of demonic will erupted from Chu Fengmian's body. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The demonic will emerge from Chu Fengmian's body in an endless stream. Under the spread of the demonic will, Chu Fengmian's body was changing. His body and skin showed a bronze color. This bronze color appeared on a person's body, but it was not abrupt. Instead, it was as if it was created by heaven and earth. On this bronze skin, there were flames burning. At first glance, Chu Fengmian looked like a bronze-skinned flame giant. Every move of this bronze-skinned flame giant was filled with demonic will. From his back, the monstrous demonic will turned into a pair of demonic wings that covered the sky. The whole deep part of the void was filled with demonic will. Even some of the top powers were unable to dispel the demonic will around them. This place seemed to have become an eternal demonic domain. No one could dispel the demonic will. This is demonization? This person is a demonic cultivator? Looking at the sudden change in Chu Fengmian, countless experts were stunned. They almost blurted out the word demonization. The change in Chu Fengmian's body was almost exactly the same as the 6 Paths Demon Sex demonization secret technique. Moreover, the demonic will exuding from Chu Fengmian's body was even more terrifying than the 6 Paths Demon Sex supremacies. Demonization. Ying Qianzhua, Qian Yun, and the white-haired old man stared at Chu Fengmian's transformation. Their expressions changed slightly. Chapter 2266. The demonization secret skill was the most powerful demonic secret skill in the 6 demon sects. Once demonized, one's strength would increase by 2 or 3 times in a short time. Therefore, no one was willing to provoke the experts of the 6 demon sects. Once demonized, even a martial artist or a demon god of a higher realm would be in danger. They didn't expect Chu Fengmian to demonize at this time. They couldn't tell the identity of the giant demonic god that Chu Fengmian had transformed into. However, the boundless demonic will on it showed that it was definitely a demonic god. The demonic will was so strong that it might even be an invincible giant in the ancient demonic clan. This man has cultivated demonic cultivation methods. Even if he started cultivating in his mother's womb, he couldn't have learned so many cultivation methods. Ying Qianzhua, Qian Yun, and the old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion cursed in their hearts. The bloodline power that Chu Fengmian displayed could be explained by chance. However, his sword principle couldn't be achieved without hundreds of years of hard work. Even Ying Qianzhua, as the phantom sword master and one of the sword masters of the Tianjin sect, who had inherited the invincible sword principle of the Tianjin sect, had a high status. However, he dared not say that his understanding of sword principle was better than Chu Fengmian's. It was already shocking that he could have such amazing sword principle at such a young age. However, Chu Fengmian had even displayed the demonization secret skill. The demonization secret skill was the most profound demonic cultivation method in the 6 demon sects. Only demons who had cultivated demonic cultivation methods for hundreds of years were qualified to display it. Even in the 6 demon sects, there were very few experts who were qualified to display the demonization secret skill. Moreover, all of them were old demons who had been cultivating demonic cultivation methods for hundreds of years. Chu Fengmian's display of the demonization secret skill startled everyone. Even Chu Fengmian himself was shocked. He didn't expect that he would suddenly demonize. However, when he saw his changed appearance, Chu Fengmian's mind suddenly became clear. He suddenly understood why Chu Fengmian had transformed into a giant with burning bronze skin. This was the appearance of the bronze heavenly demon, one of the 10 heavenly demons. Speaking of the relationship between Chu Fumian and the bronze sky demon, when Chu Fumian first formed his undying true body and turned his body into a crystal, it was because Chu Fumian obtained the bones of the 10 sky demons. Using the godly tree to refine the bronze celestial demon skeleton, Chu Fumian was able to form his half-step undying body. Although the half-step immortal true body was only the beginning, it could be said that Chu Fumian had embarked on this path because of the bronze heavenly demon. Chu Fumian had suspected that the bronze heavenly devil was one of the 10 heavenly devils, an invincible existence on the level of the devil ancestor. It was even stronger than the current immortal emperor, so it was impossible for its remains to be so weak. Now, it seemed that the bronze heavenly demon skeleton had previously been integrated into Chu Fumian's body, but the power within had quieted down. Given Chu Fumian's strength at that time, it was impossible for him to detect the existence of this power. Now that Chu Fumian had formed the 4th level of the immortal true body, the inscription he had formed was actually formed by the power of the bronze heavenly demon. Now, Chu Fumian activated the power of the inscription, causing all the power of the bronze heavenly demon to erupt. The billowing demonic will changed his body into the appearance of the bronze heavenly demon, which indeed looked very similar to the 6 paths demon sex demonification secret technique. However, Chu Fumian knew that although his transformation was very similar to demonification, there was a world of difference between the two. Once the demonification secret technique was activated, it could affect one's mind and even cause one to turn into a demon. Therefore, the experts of the 6 paths demon sect did not dare to use the demonification secret technique under normal circumstances, for fear of being affected by the demonic will contained within. However, the demonic will that Chu Fumian released now came from the inscription he had formed. In fact, it was also his power, which he could activate at will without being affected. This transformation was much more profound than the demonification secret technique. However, now, Ing Qianzhua, Qian Yun, the white-haired old man, and the others all thought that Chu Fumian was using the demonification secret technique, which could be used to hide the secret of the immortal true body. The higher the level of the immortal true body, the more Chu Fumian realized that the origin of the immortal true body was definitely more profound than what was recorded in the ancient books. Even the power of the bronze heavenly demon could be used by Chu Fumian now. If this news were to spread, the overlords of the demonic Tao who had been hiding for tens of thousands of years would come out to capture Chu Fumian and interrogate him for his secrets. Chu Fumian did not think that he was invincible now. The extraterrestrial starry sky was vast and boundless. Who knew if there were old antiques who had lived for hundreds of thousands of years who were cultivating in seclusion? Chu Fumian was not willing to reveal this secret. Now that he had the demonification secret technique as a cover, it could not be better. Even if others wanted to explore the mystery of the demonification secret technique, they would deal with the 6 paths demon gate instead of Chu Fumian. Chu Fumian activated the power of the inscription. The moment his body transformed into the bronze heavenly demon, he felt that his power had increased by 4 to 5 times. This kind of increase was much more powerful than the real demonification secret technique. The bronze heavenly demon was one of the 10 heavenly demons, the ancestor of the devil Tao. Even though the inscription Chu Fumian had condensed only contained a part of the bronze heavenly demon's power, it was still extremely terrifying when it was activated. Chu Fumian took a step forward. Looking at Ing Qianzhua, Qian Yun, and the white-haired old man who were rushing towards him, he sneered. His face was somewhat ferocious. Suddenly, he thrust out both of his swords. The tip of his swords contained billowing demonic flames. The power of the bronze heavenly demon burst out along with Chu Fumian's swords. It was strange to say that today was the first time Chu Fumian used the power of the bronze heavenly demon. However, he felt an incomparably familiar feeling. He did not need to familiarize himself with it. It naturally condensed in Chu Fumian's swords. Boom! The tip of the sword contained Chu Fengyan's supreme sword principle and the terrifying power of the bronze heavenly demon. I'll let you have a taste of the power of the supreme heavenly demon. Chu Fengyan let out a hearty laugh as the tip of his sword swept downwards. In an instant, the power unleashed by Ying Qianzhua, Qian Yun, and the white-haired old man was shattered by a single slash. Puff! The three figures were sent flying by the force of the sword. They spat out blood, and the blood ghost beast was torn apart by the sword. Chapter 2267. This immortal king realm blood ghost was torn apart by the force of this sword, unable to resist at all. The blood ghost was a desolate beast born from blood essence. When it was torn apart, it turned into a blood mist that filled the sky. The blood mist contained the blood essence of desolate beasts, humans, demonic beasts, and many other ancient races. Chu Fengyan laughed heartily when he saw the blood mist. He immediately opened his mouth and activated the sky-devouring secret technique. All of the blood essence fell into Chu Fengyan's mouth and was devoured by the sky-devouring secret technique. Many of the blood essence contained in the blood ghost were extremely violent and poisonous. Therefore, even in the Desolation era, everyone knew that the blood ghost contained a lot of blood essence. However, even experts who lacked blood essence were unwilling to hunt the blood ghost. If he were to rashly devour the blood essence of the blood ghost, there would be no benefits at all. Instead, it would be a disaster. However, Chu Fengyan was not afraid. He had the bloodline of the sky-devouring beast, which had the power to devour heaven and earth. All the poison and demonic blood that fell into the sky-devouring secret technique were turned into incomparably pure energy and poured into Chu Fengyan's body. Chu Fengyan felt that the blood essence contained in the blood ghost was almost comparable to the blood essence of 4 or 5 immortal kings. It was even more than the blood essence he had obtained from killing the 4 incarnations of the 8 war saints. The blood ghost beast was a desolate beast condensed from blood essence. Its strength came from the blood essence in its body, which was why it had such a robust amount of blood essence. With so much blood essence, Chu Fengyan could condense the second inscription. Inscription condensation. Devour. Chu Fengyan operated the power of his immortal true body. The blood essence of the blood ghost had just been refined by the sky-devouring secret technique, and the poison and demonic were all dissolved. All the essence blood was condensed together and gradually turned into the shape of an inscription. This inscription looked very similar to the previous one. However, the amount of essence blood required to activate this inscription was twice as much as the previous one. The blood essence of the blood ghost had been used to condense the inscription, but it had only condensed in embryonic form. There were still many areas that were lacking. It seemed like it lacked essence blood and had not been completely condensed. However, although this was only a prototype, Chu Fengyan could feel that his power had improved once it entered the immortal true body. Even the flames on the body of the bronze heavenly demon burned even more vigorously. The power of the bronze heavenly demon had improved. The power of the bronze heavenly demon had always been hidden in Chu Fengyan's body, but Chu Fengyan was unable to use it. As for the inscription, it was able to utilize the power of the bronze heavenly demon for Chu Fengyan's use. Chu Fengyan even had a feeling that if he condensed more inscriptions, he could control all of the bronze heavenly demon's power in the future. This was equivalent to the power of an immortal emperor. However, Chu Fengyan also knew that in order to fully control all of the bronze heavenly demon's power, he would need to condense thousands of such inscriptions. He didn't even know how much essence blood he would need. Even if Chu Fengyan killed all the experts in the 9 domains, or even the entire world, and devoured their essence blood, he might not be able to condense so many inscriptions. After all, this was only the second inscription, but it already required the essence blood of at least 10 immortal kings. If he wanted to condense more inscriptions, he would need even more. Needless to say, the amount of essence blood he would need to condense more than 10 inscriptions would be an astronomical figure. However, Chu Fengyan wasn't greedy. As long as he condensed 4 or 5 inscriptions, his strength would advance by leaps and bounds. When he stepped into the immortal monarch realm, the seven major sects will be vulnerable in front of Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian's eyes swept across the experts of the seven major sections. Now, in Chu Fengmian's eyes, all the immortal kings present were clumps of essence blood. If he could kill all of them, he would definitely be able to condense the second inscription. He might even be able to condense the embryonic form of the third inscription. This gave Chu Fengmian another reason to kill all the experts of the seven major sects on the spot. Die! Chu Fengmian coldly shouted a single word. His body suddenly moved. The pair of demonic wings on his back flapped, and his figure instantly chased after Ing Qianzhua, Qian Yun, and the white-haired old man with a ruddy complexion. This pair of devil wings didn't just look domineering. With each flap, Chu Fengmian's speed increased a lot. In an instant, he caught up with him. His eyes first looked at Ing Qianzhua, and suddenly he slashed down with his sword. Boom! Ing Qianzhua had just escaped, but he didn't expect Chu Fengmian to catch up with him so quickly. The sword slashed down, and there was almost no time for him to react. The sword light slashed down on him. Ing Qianzhua's body was immediately cut in half, and his essence blood was rapidly devoured. This sword contained the power of heaven devouring. Those who were killed would be mercilessly devoured by the power of the heaven-devouring secret technique. Ing Qianzhua didn't even have time to scream before his body was mercilessly devoured by the heaven-devouring secret technique. Not even his bones were left. The power of his essence blood had become Chu Fengmian's nourishment and was integrated into the inscription. The empty space in the center of the second inscription was filled. As long as he killed two more immortal kings and devoured their essence blood, the second inscription in Chu Fengmian's immortal true body would be completely condensed. As for the two candidates, Chu Fengmian had already chosen them. They were Qian Yun and the white-haired old man with a ruddy complexion. Their expressions changed drastically when they saw Chu Fengmian kill Ing Qianzhua in an instant. Their faces turned ghastly pale as they immediately cried out, "Everyone, this man has become a demon. If we don't kill him now, the people of the 9 regions will be plunged into misery and suffering in the future. Everyone, please attack together." There was no need for the two of them to shout. On the side of the 7 major sects, the Old Poison Master, the Crescent Moon Discipline King, Huang Yuan, Bai Mu, and the people in the galaxy formed by the Dubby Hall all stared at Chu Fengmian nervously. Suddenly, they attacked together. They could also see how terrifying Chu Fengmian was. He was no longer comparable to an ordinary immortal king. They gathered here today to kill Chu Fengmian. If Chu Fengmian could survive today, they would be the ones to suffer. Whether it was the grudge between the Sword Dao sect and the 7 major sects, or the hatred of besieging Chu Fengmian today, it was already irreconcilable. Chapter 2268. At this moment, it was either you die or I die. No one would hold back anymore. The immortal energy that filled the sky turned into countless forces that bombarded Chu Fengmian. They gathered together and turned into an invincible divine light that slashed towards Chu Fengmian. The experts of the 7 major sects all attacked together at this moment. They exploded with their strongest power, wanting to kill Chu Fengmian in one move. It's useless no matter how many of you join forces. Break from me. Looking at the countless experts attacking at this moment, Chu Fengmian revealed a smile on his face. He slashed out with both swords that contained demonic flames. As the sword slashed out, the demonic flames filled the sky and swept down. The divine light that was condensed from the power of countless experts could not withstand the tremendous power when it collided with the sword. It shattered with a loud bang. Chu Fengmian faced the experts of the 7 major sects alone with one sword. He was not afraid at all. The power of his sword swept through everything. Under this sword, even the Old Poison Master, the Crescent Moon Discipline King, and the others were forced to retreat. These immortal kings joined forces, but they were no match for Chu Fengmian in terms of strength. They were forced to retreat by this sword. Die! At this moment, Chu Fengmian's gaze fell on the desolate ancient sect side, the white-haired elder with a youthful face. At the moment when everyone was forced to retreat, Chu Fengmian attacked. His figure was extremely fast. In an instant, he caught up with a white-haired elder with a youthful face. The elder's sword slashed down with a loud bang. Boom, boom, boom. There was a barrier formed by the power of the ancient desolation protecting the old man. However, when Chu Fengmian's sword slashed down, the old man was struck by the power of the ancient desolation. The barrier formed by the power of the desolate ancient sect began to shatter crazily. It could not withstand the power of Chu Fengmian's sword. Desolate ancient sect. The elder with a youthful face faced the sword slashing down, but a strange smile appeared on his face. Just as Chu Fengmian approached, the jade bead in his hand suddenly flew out. The ancient power of the desolate ancient sect shrouded Chu Fengmian's body. It was a loud boom. This barbaric force shrouded Chu Fengmian's body, causing the surrounding space to tremble violently. This force seemed to want to banish Chu Fengmian to the ancient desolation. It had been hundreds of millions of years since the primordial era. No matter who was exiled to the primordial era, it was impossible for them to withstand the passage of time. Time was the most ruthless of forces. How many famous invincible experts had died in the passage of time? It was impossible for anyone to survive for hundreds of millions of years. Being exiled to the desolate era was the only path left for them. The jade bead in the elder's hand was the desolate ancient bead. As one of the four supreme treasures of the desolate ancient sect, the most powerful thing about it was that it could open up the desolate ancient passageway and banish people into the desolate ancient sect. The power of the ancient desolate bead enveloped Chu Fengmian tightly. The space around Chu Fengmian started to shatter, forming a huge passageway. This passage contained a great attractive force that wanted to pull Chu Fengmian into the passage. The ancient desolate ancient bead can actually open up the desolate ancient passageway. Looking at the passageway that appeared behind Chu Fengmian, everyone felt a chill down their spine. Whoever was pulled into the desolate ancient passageway, even an immortal emperor would die. However, Chu Fengmian stood in front of the passageway without moving an inch. He looked at the passageway that appeared behind him and sneered coldly. Suddenly, he activated his strength, and the demonic will erupted. The desolate ancient passageway was shattered by the vibrations, and cracks appeared on its surface. In the old man's hand, the desolate ancient bead was the same as the desolate ancient passageway that had been formed. Cracks had appeared on it. Even the ancient desolate ancient bead can't suppress this person's strength. When the old man saw the cracks appearing on the desolate ancient bead, his eyes were filled with anxiety as he shouted out loudly, "Everyone, lend me a hand." There was no need for the elder to devour. As soon as he spoke, the old poison master, Reverend Crescent Moon, and the others took action. In an instant, countless immortal energies were injected into the ancient desolate ancient bead in the elder's hand. In an instant, the power of the ancient desolate ancient bead skyrocketed. At the same time, the desolate ancient passageway behind Chu Fengmian became a lot bigger. In an instant, it covered Chu Fengmian completely. A great pulling force was about to pull Chu Fengmian into the passageway. The power of the ancient desolate ancient bead is only so. Just as Chu Fengmian's figure was about to be pulled into the desolate ancient passageway, a disdainful voice was heard. Behind Chu Fengmian, an incomparably huge figure appeared. This figure was 10,000 feet tall and stood upright. In an instant, it covered the entire desolate ancient passageway. No matter how hard the desolate ancient passageway tried to pull Chu Fengmian, it couldn't move Chu Fengmian at all. This incomparably huge figure was the divine tree. Chu Fengmian had killed countless experts and obtained countless opportunities. These benefits were all obtained by the divine tree. This divine tree was a symbiotic relationship with Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian had not used the power of the divine tree for a long time. Right now, the power of the divine tree was almost comparable to the huge divine tree that Chu Fengmian had seen in the divine tree secret realm. Although the size was far from the divine trees, the power that it contained was quite different. As soon as the divine tree appeared, it completely blocked the desolate ancient passageway. The desolate ancient passageway was only 3 to 4 meters wide. In front of the divine tree, it was incomparably small. Moreover, when the divine tree appeared, it was rooted deep in the void. No matter how hard the desolate ancient passageway tried to devour it, it couldn't move Chu Fengyan or the divine tree. Now that you're done, it's my turn to attack. Chu Fengyan stood in front of the divine tree and looked at the crowd. His eyes flashed with killing intent. He suddenly drew his sword and slashed towards the white-haired old man. This white-haired old man's complexion was currently incomparably pale. In order to activate the ancient desolate pearl, he had practically exhausted all of his strength. When he saw Chu Fengyan charging towards him, his complexion was already deathly pale. He hurriedly picked up the ancient desolate pearl to defend himself. The desolate ancient pearl flew out and blocked in front of the white-haired old man in an attempt to block Chu Fengyan's slash. However, a shattering sound could be heard. The desolate ancient pearl shattered under Chu Fengyan's slash. The desolate ancient pearl that was already riddled with holes couldn't block Chu Fengyan's slash. Chapter 2269 will help you. Seeing Chu Fengyan's sword slashing down, a river of stars suddenly appeared in front of the old man. It was a loud boom. The river of stars emitted the power of stars that filled the sky, turning into a cosmic star map that shrouded the old man. The river of stars was a secret technique that 3,000 disciples of Dubby Hall cast together. Chu Fengyan glanced over and saw the disciples of Dubby Hall through the river of stars. Third Supreme Elder, why aren't you entering the array? The voice of an old man was transmitted from the river of stars. It was one of the big shots of Dubby Hall. Hearing this, the old man's face immediately lit up with joy. He immediately entered the cosmic star map, and his figure disappeared without a trace. People of Dubby Hall, I let you go last time. How dare you stop me today? Seeing the river of stars shrouding the old man, Chu Fengyan's eyes flashed with anger. Because of some things in his previous life, Chu Fengyan didn't have much hatred for Dubby Hall. When he left the Pure Land Buddhist Temple last time, he also let the disciples of Dubby Hall go. But this time, there were still people from Dubby Hall who dared to interfere and stop Chu Fengyan. They really didn't know how to spell the word death. Chu Fengyan could let Dubby Hall go once, but it didn't mean that he would let them go a second time. It's just a cosmic star map. How dare you stop me? Break for me. Chu Fengyan flew in front of the cosmic star map. Suddenly, the sword in his hand moved. In an instant, the sword slashed 3,000 times, turning into 3,000 rays of sword chi and entering the cosmic star map. Every strand of sword chi he sent out seemed to be aimed at one of the stars. The 3,000 strands of sword chi struck the 3,000 stars with great precision. Countless screams were transmitted from the cosmic star map. In the cosmic star map, the stars were shattered. Each star represented a disciple of Dubby Hall. At this moment, more than half of the 3,000 stars were shattered. Almost 2/3 of the Alpha Hall disciples were directly killed by this sword. After losing 2/3 of the array eyes, the Universe Thousand Star Atlas could no longer be maintained. In the next moment, the Universe Star Atlas began to collapse. How do you know the secrets of the universe's Thousand Star Atlas? A voice of disbelief was emitted from the star map that was about to shatter. It belonged to the great leader of the Sky Pivot Hall, who had spoken to protect the old man. His tone was filled with incomparable shock. One of the strongest formations in Sky Pivot Hall, the Universe of 1,000 Stars diagram, had actually been destroyed so easily by Chu Fengyan. Chu Fengyan's 3,000 streaks of sword chi had accurately found 3,000 of the formation eyes. This could only be done by someone who had a deep understanding of the universe's 1,000-star chart. What? Back then, you were the ones who begged me to help you reconstruct the formation. Now, you're asking me how I know its secrets? Chu Fengyan's face was incomparably calm when he heard this voice. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire galaxy suddenly fell silent. It was as if the giant who had spoken was extremely shocked. Chu Jianbai? You're Chu Jianbai? How are you still alive? An incomparably shocked voice suddenly rang out. This voice was much clearer than before. It was the voice of a middle-aged man. I was wondering who it was. So it's the Mizar Hall Master. The moment he heard the middle-aged man's voice, Chu Fengyan could also tell his origin. He sneered. I thought that you guys would know your place after I gave you a warning last time. Looks like I've underestimated your sky, Pivot Hall. You're really Chu Jianbai? Hearing Chu Fengyan call out his name, the Sky Splitter Hall Master was shocked. Even the desolate ancient pearl can't suppress this person's strength? The old man with white hair and a youthful face saw the cracks that appeared on the desolate ancient pearl. His eyes were filled with anxiety as he loudly shouted, "Everyone, lend me a hand." There was no need for the old man with white hair and a youthful face to speak. The old poison master, the crescent moon Shakyamuni, and the others all took action together. In an instant, countless immortal energy was poured into the desolate ancient pearl in the old man's hand. In an instant, the power of the desolate ancient pearl skyrocketed. At the same time, the desolate ancient passage behind Chu Fengyan became a lot bigger. In an instant, it completely enveloped Chu Fengyan within. A huge pulling force was about to pull Chu Fengyan into the passage. The power of the desolate ancient pearl is only SOSO. Just as Chu Fengyan's figure was about to be pulled into the desolate ancient passage, a disdainful voice suddenly rang out. An incomparably huge figure appeared behind Chu Fengyan. This figure was 10,000 feet tall and stood indomitable. In an instant, it completely covered the desolate ancient passage. No matter how the desolate ancient passage tried to pull Chu Fengyan, it couldn't move Chu Fengyan at all. This incomparably huge figure was the divine tree. Chu Fengyan had killed countless experts and obtained countless opportunities. These benefits were all obtained by the divine tree. This divine tree was originally a symbiotic relationship with Chu Fengyan. Chu Fengyan had not used the power of the divine tree for a long time. Right now, the power of the divine tree was almost comparable to the huge divine tree that Chu Fengyan had seen in the divine tree secret realm. Although the size was far from the divine trees, the power that it contained was quite different. As soon as the divine tree appeared, it completely blocked the desolate ancient passage. The desolate ancient passage at its widest was only 3 to 4 meters wide. In front of the divine tree, it was incomparably small. Moreover, when the divine tree appeared, it was rooted deep in the void. No matter how the desolate ancient passage tried to devour it, it couldn't move Chu Fengyan or the divine tree. You guys are done. It's my turn to attack. Chu Fengyan stood in front of the divine tree and looked at everyone present. His eyes flashed with killing intent. Suddenly, he drew his sword and slashed towards the white-haired old man. The white-haired old man's face was incomparably pale. In order to activate the desolate ancient pearl, he had almost exhausted all of his strength. Seeing Chu Fengyan slashing towards him, his face was ashen. He quickly took up the desolate ancient pearl to block the attack. The desolate ancient pearl flew out and blocked in front of the white-haired old man in an attempt to block Chu Fengyan's sword. However, a shattering sound was heard. The desolate ancient pearl shattered under Chu Fengyan's sword. The desolate ancient pearl that was already riddled with holes couldn't block Chu Fengyan's sword at all. Chapter 2270. However, Chu Fengyan's aptitude had already reached an extremely terrifying level. In the entire history of the 9 regions, there weren't many people who could compare with the current Chu Fengyan. This kind of contrast made people feel somewhat incredulous. His appearance, aptitude, and aura are completely different from Chu Jianbai's. The Mizar Palace Master stared at Chu Fengyan. His gaze seemed to be able to see through everything about Chu Fengyan. He couldn't believe that Chu Fengyan was actually that trash Chu Jianbai. However, from Chu Fengyan's tone, he seemed to have returned to 10,000 years ago. In his eyes, the two figures began to match. It doesn't matter if this brat is Chu Jianbai or not. Once we capture him and search his memories, all of his secrets will be made public. There's no need to listen to his tricks. The old poison master suddenly snorted coldly. As soon as his words left his mouth, the old poison master's body moved. Purple miasma burst out from his body. The purple miasma covered the sky and covered the earth. Seeing the old poison master take action, everyone present retreated. The old poison master's poison technique had already reached an extremely terrifying level. No one was willing to be infected by that kind of poison at this time. These clouds of poisonous miasma shrouded Chu Fengyan. Within this poison miasma, the old poison master's body continuously flickered. A purple color had actually appeared on his palm. Within this purple color, there seemed to be many potent poisons flowing within it. 10,000 poison divine palm, the strongest immortal technique of the myriad poison divinity. Only by condensing 10,000 types of poison can one cultivate an unparalleled poison technique. Seeing the palm that contained poison, some people suddenly shouted. It said that the old poison master had bitterly cultivated the 10,000 poison divine palm for over 10,000 years. However, he had never truly succeeded in cultivating it. I never expected that he would succeed this time. Once the 10,000 poison divine palm is unleashed, no matter how strong one's physical body is or how powerful one's strength is, one will fall into an irrecoverable state after being contaminated by the poison. In the past, the 10,000 poison divine sovereign used this 10,000 poison divine palm to kill an immortal emperor. Kill an immortal emperor? That terrifying? Hearing that person's words, the surrounding crowd cried out in alarm. In the eyes of the crowd, immortal emperors were unparalleled existences that stood at the pinnacle of the immortal realm. This 10,000 poisons palm could actually kill an immortal emperor. Although the old poison master's 10,000 poison divine palm has not been cultivated to the greater mastery stage, this person is not an immortal emperor. Once he gets infected by it, he will definitely die. An old man who was familiar with the 10,000 poison godly palm said slowly, 10,000 poisons divine palm. Chu Fengyan looked at the old poison master who was flickering in the miasma. His eyes were also very serious. Chu Fengyan had heard of the illustrious reputation of the 10,000 poisons palm, so he naturally didn't dare to underestimate it. Chu Fengyan took a step back and abruptly unsheathed his sword. A dazzling sword light containing devil flames slashed out, incinerating everything in its path. The poisonous miasma was completely ignited. Suddenly, the old poison master in the miasma rushed over. The power of the 10,000 poisons palm condensed in his palm. Suddenly, a palm descended from the sky and blasted towards Chu Fengyan. So what if the 10,000 poisons palm is powerful? With your strength, you won't be able to withstand a single blow from the outside. Chu Fengyan sneered and slashed out with his sword again. The sword light annihilated everything. The old poison master's body was cut in half by the sword. His body suddenly shattered and turned into a bloody mist. The old poison master couldn't even get close to Chu Fengyan before he was killed by Chu Fengyan's sword. Is that so? Almost at the moment when the old poison master's body was cut in half by the sword light, an old and gloomy voice suddenly sounded. A figure suddenly appeared behind Chu Fengyan. It was an old man. It was the old poison master. The old poison master didn't die? But why are there two old poison masters here? Seeing the old poison master suddenly appear behind Chu Fengyan, the minds of many people present were in chaos. Chu Fengyan had just killed the old poison master, but the old poison master suddenly appeared behind Chu Fengyan. It seemed like there were two old poison masters here. If the old poison master from before was a clone, it shouldn't be possible for a bloody mist to appear after the clone was killed. The essence blood of the old poison master couldn't be faked. Second true body. This is the second true body. One of the elders suddenly spoke up. He had lived for tens of thousands of years and was very knowledgeable. He recognized why there were two old poison masters here. Second true body. The second true body was actually a type of secret incarnation technique. However, it was different from ordinary secret incarnation techniques. The second true body didn't condense an incarnation, but a true body. It was to divide one's essence blood into two to condense a second true body. The strength of the second true body was exactly the same as the original. Therefore, although it was a secret incarnation technique, it was called the second true body. To condense a second true body, One had to divide one's strength into two. It was no different from going through a battle of life and death. Generally speaking, once a martial artist condensed a second true body, it meant that the martial artist was a demon god. In the future, unless he came across an amazing opportunity, there was no hope for him to advance any further. Only the experts of the older generation who had reached the peak and believed that they couldn't advance any further would use a secret technique to create a second true body. Once the second true body was created, it meant that one's strength couldn't advance any further. Therefore, although the secret technique of the second true body was passed down in the 9 regions, there were very few people who actually cultivated it. No one had thought that the old Poison Master would secretly condense a second true body. The old Poison Master was the oldest of the 9 regions experts. His lifespan was less than 10,000 years. It was almost impossible for him to advance any further. He was the only one who was willing to give up any hope of advancing any further and condense a second true body. He sacrificed his second true body to deal with this person. The old Poison Master is really ruthless. A martial artist muttered to himself. Now, the second true body had been completely destroyed by Chu Fengyan's sword. There was no possibility of it recovering. It was all to attract Chu Fengyan's attention. It seemed that even Chu Fengyan didn't realize that the old Poison Master had condensed a second true body. It was only when the old Poison Master's true body appeared behind him that he seemed to realize. However, it was already too late. Die! The old Poison Master's palm hit Chu Fengyan's back with a loud bang. In the palm of his hand, the 10,000 Poison's divine palm's deadly poison was suddenly injected into Chu Fengyan's body along with the palm. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.